Some nights the sky feels closer than it should. Stars pulse slower. Silence folds into itself. Maybe that's just the mind listening to what it forgot to hear. You stand on your balcony in March 2025, breathing morning air that tastes different. Not pollution, not rain. Not the salt that drifts in from the coast when the wind shifts east. This is metal mixed with something sweeter like blood that learned to bloom. You inhale slowly, and the taste sits on your tongue like a memory your cells recognize before your brain does. The news 3 weeks ago said 3IATLAS passed Earth safely. Third interstellar visitor in 8 years. Trajectory pose zero threat. The headlines celebrated. NASA tweeted a graphic showing the comet's path, a clean hyperbolic arc that missed our orbit by millions of kilometers. Everyone exhaled, another cosmic stranger that came close enough to photograph, far enough to forget. But that night, the International Space Station sent a quiet report to ground control. Unusual particulate density in the lower thermosphere. Nothing alarming. Just a note in the logbook, filed between routine pressure checks and oxygen readings. The kind of data that doesn't make headlines because it doesn't mean anything. Or so they thought. Before we walk further into this, if these quiet journeys feel like home to you, you might want to stay a while. You can gently tap the like button if this resonates. Subscribe if you'd like more stories told softly when the world sleeps and the questions get louder. Ring the bell not for noise, but so the silence can find you when it has something to say. Now, let's drift. You work in atmospheric research, not the kind that makes news, no hurricanes, no ozone holes, no climate summits. You study the air that nobody thinks about, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, the thin layers where space becomes breath. Every morning, you check the spectrometer readings from stations in San Francisco, Tokyo, Cape Town. Baseline measurements, oxygen, nitrogen, argon, trace metals, numbers that barely change year to year. Except this morning, something did. Iron oxide nanoparticles, up 0.7 parts per billion from baseline. You run the analysis twice. The computer doesn't argue. The spike started mid-March, peaked around the 18th, then settled into a new normal, the 0.4 ppb, above what the air has carried for the past decade. You check Reddit while your coffee goes cold. There's a thread with 9,000 comments. Does the air smell weird to anyone else? Someone in Oregon, another in Berlin, Seoul, Bangalore, all saying the same thing. Metallic, sweet. Like they're breathing something they don't have a word for. The scientists dismiss it. Mass hysteria, seasonal allergies, the brain playing tricks when people read too much news. But you're staring at the mass spectrometry data, and the brain isn't playing tricks. The iron is real, the particles are real, and they have a structure you've never seen in atmospheric samples. Graphite, Fe3S4, iron sulfide with a magnetic signature. You've seen graphite before, but only in one place inside magnetotactic bacteria. Ancient microbes that use iron crystals to navigate Earth's magnetic field like tiny living compasses. They live in deep mud, where oxygen doesn't reach following field lines down to the places they can survive. Scientists believe they evolved this ability 3.5 billion years ago, when Earth's oceans were anoxic, and life had to learn direction before it learned breath. But graphite doesn't appear in the atmosphere. It can't. The temperatures would destroy the crystal structure. The UV radiation would oxidize it into rust and dust, unless it arrived from somewhere cold enough that sublimation happens slowly. Somewhere, the crystals stay intact until they reach air dense enough to hold them. You pull up the trajectory data for 3IATLAS. Closest approach, February 23rd, 2025. Distance 0.12 AU. That's 18 million kilometers, close enough for telescopes to catch detail, far enough that no one worried. The comet was small, maybe 400 meters across, composed of carbon dioxide ice and silicate dust. Spectroscopy showed nothing unusual. It looked like 2I Borisov, like every comet humans have studied since we learned to point instruments at the sky. Except 3IATLAS did something 2I Borisov didn't. 2 days before closest approach, it changed course. Not much, just 0.06 AU, 6 million kilometers. The kind of adjustment that happens when a comet outgasses jets of sublimating ice, pushing the nucleus in unpredictable directions. Astronomers noted it, adjusted their models, kept watching. But the outgassing didn't match the deflection. The math was off by a factor of 3. Carbon dioxide jets couldn't produce that much thrust. Not from a comet that size at that distance from the sun. Something else pushed it. You find a preprint on arXiv uploaded 2 days ago by a team at Princeton. Title, Magnetic Trajectory Correction in Interstellar Object, 3IATLAS. They ran simulations, modeled the comet's approach with and without Earth's magnetosphere. The field extends 60,000 kilometers into space on the sunward side, 10 times that on the night side. Most objects pass through it without noticing. Rock and ice don't care about magnetic fields. But if an object carried enough ferromagnetic material, magnetite graphite metallic iron, the field could exert force. Small force, gentle force. Just enough to bend a trajectory if the object was moving slowly enough. 3IATLAS approached at 31 kilometers per second. Slow for an interstellar visitor. Slow enough. The Princeton team calculated that a 400-meter comet with 15% graphite content could be deflected by 0.06 AU if it entered Earth's magnetosphere at the right angle, the right speed, the right distance. The probability of this happening by chance, 0.004%, 4 in 1,000. You read that number 3 times. The coffee is cold now. The morning light slants through the window at an angle that makes dust motes visible, each one drifting in its own private orbit. You watch them fall and think about trajectories, about odds, about the difference between accident and aim. 3IATLAS didn't hit Earth. It didn't need to. It came close enough to feel the pull, close enough to break open. The fragmentation happened on February 25th, 2 days after closest approach. Not an explosion, not a collision. The comet just started shedding pieces like a flower opening in slow motion. Telescopes tracked 12 major fragments, then 30, then lost count as the debris cloud spread. By March 1st, the trail stretched across 0.3 AU, 45 million kilometers of ice and dust, and something else. Something that fell. You pull up the ESA swarm satellite data. 3 satellites flying in formation, measuring Earth's magnetic field, with precision fine enough to catch variations from underground iron deposits, ocean currents, solar storms. They weren't looking for anything unusual in March, just routine monitoring. But on March 3rd, all 3 satellites registered a magnetic anomaly, small, brief, lasting 8 hours. A localized strengthening of the field over the Pacific, then the Atlantic, then dissipating into background noise. The anomaly moved at 7.8 kilometers per second, orbital velocity, the speed of something falling. The swarm team flagged it, couldn't explain it, filed a report that ended with the words, "Further investigation recommended." You click to the atmospheric entry models. NASA tracks everything that burns up in the atmosphere larger than a grape. Meteors, space junk, satellites at end of life. On March 3rd, between 0400 and 1200 UTC, the detection network logged 847 entries. Most of them tiny dust-sized fragments from 3IATLAS burning up at 85 kilometers altitude, too small to reach the ground. But 17 of them didn't burn. They sublimated, skipped across the upper atmosphere like stones on water, shedding mass in trails of vapor that spectroscopy showed contained iron, sulfur, carbon, and trace organics. By the time they reached 70 kilometers, there was nothing left to track. No debris, no impact craters, just aerosols spreading in the stratosphere too fine for gravity to pull down quickly. You imagine it. Graphite crystals small enough to stay suspended, light enough to drift, magnetic enough to align with Earth's field as they fall slowly over weeks, over months. Settling into the air, people breathe in San Francisco, Tokyo, Cape Town. In every breath you take, there are roughly 10^2 molecules, 22 zeros, an inconceivable number. But if even one in every 10-15 molecules is a Grezite nanoparticle, you'd be inhaling 10,000 crystals per breath, small enough to pass through lung tissue, small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, small enough to settle in the places where cells decide direction before they decide motion. You close your eyes, breathe in through your nose. The metallic taste is still there, faint, persistent, not unpleasant, just there. Like a word you're about to remember. Your phone buzzes, a text from a colleague in Berlin. Are you seeing this? A link to a Twitter thread. Thousands of replies, people reporting the same thing, not just the smell, something else. A sense of orientation, of knowing north without checking, of feeling the planet under them, not as ground but as direction. You stand up, walk to the window, close your eyes, turn slowly, deliberately with no reference point, and you stop, facing north. You open your eyes, check the compass app. 358 degrees, 2 degrees off true north. Close enough. Your heart beats slower than it should, not from fear, from something older than fear. Recognition without understanding. The feeling a migrating bird must have when it hatches and immediately knows which way home is. But you're not a bird. Humans don't have magnetoreception. We lost it if we ever had it millions of years ago, when our ancestors stopped navigating by field lines and started navigating by sight and memory. Or maybe we didn't lose it. Maybe it just went quiet, waiting for the right signal to wake up. You look at the spectrometry data again, the Grezite concentration, the timeline, the way it all lines up with 3IATLAS fragmentation, atmospheric entry, global distribution. This wasn't debris, this was dispersal. You sit down. The room feels smaller and larger at the same time. The air tastes like iron and memory. Somewhere in the 1022 molecules, you just inhaled something older than your species is settling into place, finding a home, teaching your cells a direction they forgot they knew. Outside the sky is the same blue it's always been, but when you look up, you feel it differently. Not as a dome above you, as a field around you, invisible lines of force that stretch from pole to pole, holding you not with gravity, but with geometry, with pattern, with the same silent architecture that guided magnetotactic bacteria through lightless oceans 3.5 billion years ago. And somewhere beyond, the blue 3IATLAS is leaving the solar system, moving back toward the dark between stars, its trajectory altered, its cargo delivered. You don't need to understand everything. You just rest and let the cells listen. The lab is empty at 3 a.m, just you and the hum of machines that never sleep. Fluorescent lights flicker in that way they do when no one's watching, casting shadows that pool in corners like spilled ink. You've been here 5 hours. The data doesn't change, but you keep looking at it anyway, hoping it will explain itself in a language you already know. It doesn't. On your screen, atmospheric composition reports from 43 stations worldwide, all showing the same anomaly: iron sulfide nanoparticles, Grezite. The concentration peaked on March 18th at 0.7 parts per billion, then settled into a plateau. Not dropping, not climbing, just sitting there in the air like it's always belonged. You pull up historical data. Go back 10 years, 20, 30. Grezite concentrations in the troposphere 0, stratosphere 0, mesosphere undetectable. The mineral exists on Earth sure deep in anaerobic sediments inside bacteria that learn to navigate before oxygen poisoned the oceans. But it doesn't fly. It doesn't drift at 15 kilometers altitude where commercial jets leave contrails and weather balloons pop in the thin cold. Until now. You think about Oumuamua, October 2017, the first confirmed interstellar object to pass through our solar system, a rocky cigar-shaped thing tumbling end over end at 87 kilometers per second. It accelerated as it left, pushed by something that wasn't gravity. Avi Loeb from Harvard suggested it might be a light sail artificial intentional built by someone who wasn't us. The astronomy community pushed back hard, called it speculation, called it premature, insisted it was outgassing even though spectroscopy showed no volatile compounds. The debate raged for months. Then Oumuamua left, and the silence returned. Then came 2I Borisov, August 2019. A comet from another star, but this one looked normal. Carbon monoxide ice, cyanide, dust, everything a comet should be. Everyone exhaled. See, interstellar objects are just objects. Rock and ice doing what rock and ice does. No mystery, no anomaly, just physics playing out the way physics always plays out. 3IATLAS should have been the same. When Atlas Survey Telescope in Hawaii caught it on January 8, 2025, the orbital elements were clean, hyperbolic trajectory, eccentricity of 1003. Coming from the direction of Canis Major maybe, or deeper origin uncertain, but definitely not here. Definitely not ours. They named it fast, designated it, filed it in the catalog between 2I Borisov and whatever would come fourth. Just another visitor passing through the neighborhood, polite enough not to knock. But you're looking at the trajectory plot now, and something feels wrong. Not wrong like a mistake. Wrong like a sentence that's grammatically correct, but means something you don't want it to mean. 3IATLAS was supposed to miss Earth by 0.18 AU, 27 million kilometers. Far enough that closest approach would be a footnote in observation logs. Astronomers would take spectra, maybe catch a rotation period. Then it would fade into the outer solar system, and everyone would move on to the next transient event, the next asteroid with a weird albedo, the next pulsar that glitched. But 2 days before closest approach, the trajectory changed, not by much. Just 0.06 AU, 9 million kilometers. The kind of shift that happens when a comet starts out gassing asymmetrically jets of vapor, erupting from the sun-facing side, pushing the nucleus like a slow thruster. It happens all the time, predictable, boring. Except the outgassing models don't match. You open the paper from Princeton, 3 authors, published on R5 March 10th, barely 2 weeks old. Magnetic Trajectory Correction in Interstellar Object 3IATLAS. You've read it 4 times now. Each time the conclusion sits heavier. They modeled the deflection using standard cometary outgassing. Carbon dioxide sublimating at 1.4 AU from the sun. Jets producing thrust. The math gives you a deflection of 0.02 AU. Maybe 0.025 if you're generous with the volatile fraction. But the observed deflection was 0.06 AU, 3 times too much, so they tried something else. They added a magnetic field, not the comet's field Earth's. The magnetosphere extends 10 Earth radii, sunward 40 radii on the night side. It's shaped like a teardrop compressed by solar wind, on one side stretched into a tail on the other. Most objects pass through it without noticing. Rock doesn't care about magnetic fields. Ice doesn't care, but greigite cares. Greigite is ferrimagnetic. It aligns with external fields like iron filings on a paper above a bar magnet. If 3IATLAS carried enough greigite, say, 15% by mass, and if it approached at just the right angle at just the right speed, the magnetosphere could exert force, tiny force, measured in micronewtons. But applied over millions of kilometers over days of slow approach, micronewtons add up. The simulation shows the deflection matching observations within 2% margin of error, and the probability of this happening by chance, they calculated it. 4 in 1,000. 0.004. You stare at that number. 4 in 1,000. Not impossible. Improbable, but not impossible. Comets do weird things. Space is full of coincidences. The universe is large and old and chaotic, and sometimes things line up in ways that look intentional, but aren't. Except 3IATLAS didn't just deflect, it fragmented. On February 25th, 2025, 2 days after closest approach, it started breaking apart. Not explosively, not violently, just opening. Like a seed pod sensing soil. Like something waiting for the right conditions to disperse. You pull up the fragmentation images from Hubble. 12 fragments initially captured over 6 hours, then 30. Then the resolution breaks down, and all you see is a cloud, a spreading halo of ice and dust, and something darker that spectroscopy flags as high metallic content. Iron, sulfur, carbon, trace organics. By March 1st, the debris field stretched 0.3 AU, 45 million kilometers. A trail of breadcrumbs falling sunward, heatward, earthward. And then the burning started. NASA's Meteor Detection Network logged 847 atmospheric entries between March 3rd and March 5th. Most of them small grain-sized fragments hitting the upper atmosphere at 7.8 kilometers per second. They should have burned. Should have vaporized in bright streaks of ionized air, adding another layer of cosmic dust to the stratosphere, like every meteor shower, since the planet cooled enough to have a stratosphere. But 17 of them didn't burn. They sublimated. The spectrometry is clear. No combustion signature, no oxygen reaction. Just phase change solid to vapor ice to aerosol, mineral to mist. The fragments skipped across the atmosphere between 85 and 70 kilometers altitude, shedding mass in trails that weather satellites caught as faint blue-green glows against the black of space. You zoom in on the spectral analysis. The emissions match graphite vapor, iron sulfide excited by UV radiation from the sun, fluorescing in narrow bands around 480 nanometers. The same color as bioluminescent bacteria, the same color as certain deep-sea creatures that make their own light in places where sunlight is a myth, and mixed in with the graphite glycine, alanine, simple amino acids. The building blocks that make proteins, that make enzymes, that make the molecular machinery of every cell that has ever lived on Earth. You sit back. The chair creaks. Somewhere in the building, a ventilation system kicks on, and you feel the air pressure change slightly. Your ears pop. You swallow. Amino acids in space aren't new. The Murchison meteorite carried dozens of them when it fell in Australia in 1969. Comets are known to harbor organic molecules. Formaldehyde, methanol, hydrogen cyanide. The chemistry of carbon is promiscuous. It happens anywhere conditions are right, or even wrong. Carbon doesn't care about hospitality, but graphite and glycine together. That's not random chemistry, that's biology, or at least the toolkit of biology. The instruction manual written in molecules that say, here's how you sense direction, here's how you build structure. You open another file, this one from Max Planck Institute in Germany, published March 28th. Title, Magneto-Organic Complexes in Stratospheric Aerosols, following 3IATLAS atmospheric entry. They collected air samples from high-altitude balloons, 30 kilometers up where the stratosphere is cold and still, and nothing much happens except ozone reactions and the slow drift of volcanic ash. The samples showed graphite nanoparticles 10 to 50 nanometers in diameter, with organic molecules bonded to the surface. Not just mixed, bonded, covalently. The amino acids weren't contamination. They were attached, integrated, like they were designed to stay together. The paper uses careful language, consistent with abiotic synthesis under interstellar conditions. Suggests prebiotic chemistry may occur in protoplanetary disks. Further research needed to determine formation mechanism. They don't say the quiet part. They don't say this looks engineered, but you're thinking it. You click to the atmospheric dispersion model. Someone at NOAA ran it, probably bored, probably curious, probably staying late like you are now because the data doesn't make sense and sleep feels like giving up. They modeled how Brigitte nanoparticles would spread after atmospheric entry. Particle size, density, stratospheric wind patterns, gravitational settling rate. The model shows global distribution within 30 days, homogeneous, even. Like fog settling into a valley, like pollen dusting a forest in spring. By April 15th, the Brigitte concentration at ground level should reach 0.3 parts per billion, everywhere. Equator to poles, desert to rainforest, city to wilderness. You look at the date. Today is March 31st, 2 weeks to go. Your phone vibrates, a notification from Reddit. The thread you've been following. Does the air smell weird to anyone else? Just hit 50,000 comments. You scroll through. Most are jokes, memes, people saying they've always thought air smelled weird, but buried in the noise there are others. Someone in Stockholm. I've been able to find north without my compass for a week now. Someone in Nairobi. I close my eyes on the matatu and I know which direction we're turning. Someone in Santiago. My daughter asked me why the sky has a direction. She's 4. How does she know that? You screenshot it. Add it to the folder you're building. Evidence of what, mass hysteria, collective delusion, or maybe mass awakening. Maybe the planet breathing in something it's been missing, and 7 billion nervous systems noticing all at once. You pull up the research on magnetoreception. It exists unambiguously in birds. Migratory species like Arctic terns, bar-tailed godwits can sense Earth's magnetic field with precision fine enough to navigate across oceans without landmarks. The mechanism lives in their eyes, cryptochromes, light-sensitive proteins that react to magnetic fields at the quantum level. Electron spins, radical pairs. Physics so delicate it only works because biology learned to amplify whispers. Humans don't have cryptochromes in our retinas. We lost them, evolutionary biologists think, when our ancestors stopped migrating and started settling, when we built cities and roads and GPS satellites, when we stopped needing to feel north because we could just look it up. But we still have magnetite in our brains, tiny crystals clustered in the ethmoid bone right behind the nose. Studies found them in the 1990s. No one knew what they did. Maybe nothing. Maybe just biomineralization noise, junk accumulation like kidney stones or arterial plaque. Or maybe they were waiting. You stand up, walk to the window. The city outside is still awake. Sodium streetlights, car headlights, the glow of screens in apartment windows. People living their lives breathing air that tastes like metal and memory not knowing they're inhaling instructions. You close your eyes, turn slowly, stop, north. You check your phone compass, 359 degrees, 1 degree off. Your heart doesn't race, it settles, like something finding its place after floating too long. You breathe in through your nose. The metallic taste is still there, but now you recognize it. Not iron, not blood. Something older. The smell of oceans before oxygen. The smell of bacteria navigating lightless depths by magnetic field alone, building tiny compasses inside their cells. Because direction was survival, and survival was everything. 3IATLAS didn't come to destroy. It came to deliver, not a weapon, a reminder. A gene therapy written in minerals, an upgrade installed with every breath. You think about panspermia, the hypothesis that life didn't start here, it arrived. Seeds drifting between stars, hardy enough to survive the vacuum and radiation, and the cold that turns time into geology. Svante Arrhenius proposed it in 1903. Francis Crick revisited it in 1973, called it directed panspermia, suggested maybe life was sent on purpose. Everyone thought it was fringe science, beautiful, poetic, but unprovable. Life is too fragile, space is too hostile, the odds are too long. But Brigitte nanoparticles aren't fragile, amino acids frozen in ice aren't fragile. And if you wrap them together in a comet with just enough magnetic content to steer by planetary fields, the odds stop being odds. They become trajectory. They become aim. You look at the data one more time. The deflection, the fragmentation, the atmospheric entry, the global dispersion. All of it timed, all of it precise, all of it unfolding like a sequence that was written before Earth had a name. And you wonder, how many times has this happened? How many comets have seeded this planet with the tools for life? How many magnetic whispers have fallen into oceans, into soil, into the lungs of creatures that didn't know they were being taught? Maybe we've never been native. Maybe we've always been the echo of something older. Maybe evolution isn't struggle and mutation and blind chance. Maybe it's curriculum, lessons delivered in molecules, instructions whispered by visitors who never need to land. You sit down. The hum of the machines is louder now, or maybe you're just listening differently. The fluorescent lights flicker, the shadows pool, and somewhere in the 1022 molecules you inhale with your breath, Grigitte crystals are settling into the magnetite clusters behind your nose, aligning like keys finding locks, teaching your cells which way is home. Memory is a strange thing. Not the kind you can name, not birthdays or addresses or the lyrics to songs you haven't heard in 20 years. The other kind. The kind written in phospholipids and ion channels. The kind that doesn't need your permission to remember. You're standing in the archive room of the Natural History Museum in London. It's April 2025. The air here smells like old paper and preservation chemicals, faintly sweet like formaldehyde mixed with dust, that's been settling since Victoria was queen. The ceiling is high, the lights are dim, and in front of you behind glass sits a rock that fell from the sky in 1969, the Murchison meteorite. It landed in Australia on September 28th. Morning, clear sky. Witnesses said it broke into fragments as it fell scattering across farmland near the town of Murchison, north of Melbourne. Total recovered mass over 100 kilograms. Classified as a carbonaceous chondrite CM2 type. One of the most primitive objects in the solar system. Older than Earth, older than the Sun. 4.65 billion years of chemistry frozen in stone. You've read about it dozens of times, but reading and seeing are different things. The fragment in front of you is the size of a fist, dark gray, almost black, with a fusion crust, where atmospheric entry melted the surface into glass. It looks like nothing, like a piece of asphalt, like something you'd kick aside on a hiking trail without noticing. But inside this rock, chemists found over 70 amino acids. 70. Earth life uses 20. The genetic code, the ribosome, the entire protein folding apparatus of every cell that has ever lived, built on 20 amino acids. But the Murchison meteorite carried 70. Most of them don't exist in nature here. Isovaline, alpha-amino isobutyric acid, molecules that have no function in terrestrial biology. No reason to be here, no pathway to form under Earth conditions. They came from somewhere else. You think about that. 70 amino acids falling onto a young planet that didn't have oceans, yet didn't have an ozone layer, didn't have anything except volcanoes and lightning and a sky full of impacts. And in that rain of stone and ice chemistry that would later become you. But here's what the textbooks don't tell you. Here's what the museum placard doesn't mention. The amino acids in Murchison aren't random. They're not just a shotgun blast of organic molecules formed by UV radiation and electrical discharge in some protoplanetary disk. They're selected, enriched. The ones Earth life uses, glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, show up in higher concentrations than the exotic ones. As if something sorted them, as if something new, or maybe learned. You walk to the next display. A thin section of the meteorite magnified under UV light. The image shows tiny structures, spherical, elongated, clustered. They look like cells. They're not cells. They're called organized elements by the scientists who first saw them in the 1960s. Probably just mineral formations. Probably abiotic. Probably nothing. Except some of them contain the magnetite, Fe3O4, magnetic iron oxide, arranged in chains, like the magnetosomes inside magnetotactic bacteria, like the compass needles that ancient microbes use to find their way down. You lean closer. The structures are 50 to 200 nanometers across, the same size as the Greyjeet nanoparticles found in the stratosphere after 3IATLAS, the same size as the iron crystals in your ethmoid bone. Coincidence piles on, coincidence until the word stops meaning anything. You leave the museum. Outside London is gray and damp. Rain threatens but hasn't started. You walk without direction, just moving, letting your feet decide, and they take you north. Always north. You don't fight it. Fighting feels wrong now, like arguing with your heartbeat. On your phone, you pull up a paper from 1996. Researchers at Stanford and MIT analyzing another meteorite, ALH 84001, found in Antarctica but originally from Mars. Blasted off the red planet by an asteroid impact 17 million years ago, drifted through space, landed in ice. Inside, they found structures that looked biological, tubular, segmented, and magnetite crystals arranged in chains. The team suggested they might be fossilized bacteria, Martian bacteria, life that evolved independently 140 million kilometers away, but somehow built the same magnetic architecture Earth life built. NASA held a press conference. The president mentioned it. For 2 weeks, the world believed we'd found alien life. Then other scientists pushed back. The structures could be abiotic. The magnetite could form without biology. The paper was controversial. The evidence was ambiguous. The claim was extraordinary, and extraordinary claims need extraordinary proof. The consensus settled on probably not life. Probably just chemistry doing what chemistry does. But what if chemistry knows what it's doing? You stop walking, you're in Regent's Park. Somehow your feet brought you here without asking. The grass is wet. The trees are budding early spring, trying to become late spring. A few people jog past earbuds and breath misting. Nobody notices the sky is different. Or maybe they do, but they don't have words for it yet. You sit on a bench, open another file on your phone. This one from the European Space Agency, published April 8th. Title, Historical Analysis of Atmospheric Iron Content, 1850-2025. They went back through ice cores. Antarctic ice, Greenland ice. Each layer is a year, sometimes a season. Trapped air bubbles preserve the atmosphere as it was oxygen ratios, carbon dioxide, methane, trace metals. A timeline of everything the planet breathed. The iron content is mostly stable. Small fluctuations from volcanic eruptions, meteor showers, industrial pollution. But then there are spikes, sharp increases that last a few months, then fade as the particles settle out. In 1908, same year as Tunguska, the explosion in Siberia that flattened 2,000 square kilometers of forest. Everyone assumes it was a comet or asteroid airburst, but the ice core shows an iron spike 2 months later, not impact debris, nanoparticles, consistent with Greyjeet. In 1972, a fireball entered Earth's atmosphere on August 10th, skimming through at 15 kilometers per second. It didn't hit, just grazed the upper atmosphere and left. Cameras caught it over Montana heading north. Ice cores show an iron spike in October, same signature. In 2013, Chelyabinsk meteor, 500 kilotons of energy released over Russia when a 20-meter asteroid exploded at 30 kilometers altitude. Everyone saw that one. Dash cams captured it. Windows shattered. People got sunburned from the flash. Ice cores show no iron spike because Chelyabinsk was rock. Stone, no Greyjeet, no magnetic content, just dumb matter doing dumb things. But 3IATLAS ice cores aren't available yet. It's too recent. The snow hasn't compressed, the layers haven't locked. But atmospheric sampling shows the spike started March 3rd and hasn't stopped. 0.4 parts per billion holding steady. Like a new baseline, like the planet learned to breathe something extra. You scroll through the data, look for other spikes in the historical record. You find 6. In 1859, same year as the Carrington event, the biggest solar storm in recorded history. Telegraph systems failed. Auroras were seen in the Caribbean. Maybe it was just a solar storm, or maybe something else arrived hidden in the chaos. In 1783, the year Laki erupted in Iceland. Volcanic fog covered Europe for months. Crops failed, people starved. Ice cores show sulfur dioxide ash and iron nanoparticles, Greygit's signature, blamed on the volcano. But volcanoes don't make Greygit. In 1348, the Black Death. No ice cores go back that far, but tree rings show something. Magnetic anomalies in the wood from that year, iron content higher than baseline. Chronicles describe a corrupt air that spread the plague. Miasma, they called it. Bad air, poisoned wind, or maybe just air that carried instructions. You close the file. The rain starts. Light, cold. It touches your face and you don't move. You think about panspermia not as a single event, but as a process. Not the origin of life, but the maintenance of it. Firmware updates delivered every few centuries. Patches installed when the system starts to drift. Every mass extinction on Earth is followed by an explosion of diversity. New body plans. New metabolic pathways. New ways of being alive. Paleontologists call it adaptive radiation. They assume it's survivors filling empty niches. But what if it's new instructions arriving? What if catastrophe is just the setup for delivery? The Permian extinction 252 million years ago killed 96% of marine species. The Triassic followed, and suddenly there were dinosaurs. Not evolved slowly from what came before, just there, fully formed, ready. The Cretaceous extinction, 66 million years ago, killed the dinosaurs. The Paleocene followed, and suddenly there were mammals. Big mammals, smart mammals, primates. Eventually you. What fell from the sky between those epochs? What rocks carried what chemistry? What magnetic seeds taught? What cells which direction to grow? You look at your hands. Primate hands. 5 fingers. Opposable thumb. The same configuration as every mammal, every reptile, every amphibian going back 375 million years to Tiktaalik, the fish that learned to walk. The pentadactyl limb. 5 digits. Always 5. Why 5? Developmental biology says it's constraint. Evolutionary history. The genetic toolkit for limb development got locked in early and now we're stuck with it. It's not optimal, it's just what happened. But what if 5 is intentional? What if 5 is the answer to a question, asked by something that understands symmetry better than we do? Starfish have 5 arms. Sand dollars have 5-fold symmetry. Flowers have 5 petals. The universe seems to like 5. Or maybe 5 likes the universe. You stand up. The rain is steady now. You should go inside. You should eat something. You should sleep. But you keep walking. North. Through the park. Past the lake where swans glide in water that reflects gray sky. Past the rose garden where nothing's blooming yet, but the thorns are sharp and ready. You pass a woman walking a dog. She nods at you. The dog stops, sniffs the air, looks northeast, pulls the leash. The woman laughs, says something about squirrels, but you saw it. The dog oriented, found a direction that had nothing to do with scent or sound. Dogs are descended from wolves. Wolves migrate. They know north. Maybe they're remembering too. You reach the edge of the park. The city starts again. Buildings traffic the hum of human density. You check your phone. A new paper posted on BioRxiv. Preprint, not peer-reviewed yet, but the title stops you cold. Rapid increase in human magnetoreception capability. following atmospheric iron exposure, a global survey, published by a consortium, MIT, Caltech, Max Planck, Oxford, Karolinska Institute, 47 authors, data from 12,000 participants across 6 continents. They tested people in March 2025 before 3IATLAS fragmentation. Baseline magnetoreception, 2.3% of population, shows measurable ability to sense magnetic fields above chance level. They tested again in April. Post-fragmentation, post-exposure, 14.7%, 6 times higher. You read the abstract standing in the rain. People who live in cities show the strongest increase. People who spend time outdoors. People who breathe deeply. The nanoparticles enter through the nose, the researchers suggest, pass through the olfactory bulb, settle in the ethmoid bone where magnetite already exists, seed new crystals, amplify the signal that's always been there but too quiet to hear. The paper doesn't speculate about origin, doesn't mention 3IATLAS, just reports the data, the increase, the correlation, the timeline. But you scroll to the discussion section. One paragraph catches your eye. Participants reporting new magnetoreceptive ability describe the sensation as knowing without seeing, a pull toward correctness, or feeling held by something larger. Qualitative reports suggest the experience is not purely sensory, but carries emotional valence, comfort, belonging, orientation in both physical and existential senses. Orientation in existential senses. You close your eyes, feel the rain on your skin. Feel the north pulling at something inside your skull that doesn't have a name in English, doesn't have a name in any language humans made, because we didn't need a name for it. We forgot we had it. We forgot we lost it, until now. Somewhere above the rain clouds, the stratosphere is still full of Greyjeet, still settling, still teaching. Every breath you take, every person takes, carries 10,000 magnetic crystals smaller than a virus. They cross membranes, they find iron, they align, they wait for what you don't know, but your cells seem to. They're listening to something older than words, older than thought. A signal that's been broadcasting since the first bacteria learned to follow field lines through lightless oceans, since the first cell built a compass and called it survival. 3IATLAS didn't bring invasion. It brought memory, the kind written in minerals, the kind that doesn't ask permission, the kind that says you've done this before, you've been here before. Now remember, you open your eyes, start walking. Not toward home, toward north. Because north is where the signal is strongest. North is where the field lines converge. North is where something is waiting to see if the message was received. And in the rain, in the gray light of a London April, you're not afraid. You're not confused. You're just awake. Like waking from a dream you didn't know you were having. Like opening eyes you didn't know were closed. The planet is breathing differently, and so are you. Senses are liars, not malicious ones, just optimists. They tell you the world is solid when it's mostly empty space. They tell you colors exist when really it's just wavelengths your brain decides to paint. They tell you silence is absence when really it's just frequencies you can't hear. You're in a sensory deprivation tank in Berlin, May 2025. The water is body temperature saturated with Epsom salt, so you float without effort. The darkness is absolute. No light, no sound except your heartbeat and the slow tide of your breath. You've been here 40 minutes, long enough for the boundary between skin and water to dissolve, long enough to forget which way is up. But you know which way is north. The tank is oriented east-west. You checked before climbing in. Your body is floating perpendicular to the magnetic field lines. And yet you can feel them. Not with your skin, not with your inner ear, with something deeper. Something that doesn't have nerve endings, but responds anyway, like a compass needle that happens to be made of meat. You turn your head slowly, the water barely ripples. In the absolute dark, with no visual reference, no sound, no gravity to speak of, you rotate until the pull feels right, until the alignment clicks into place like a key finding its tumbler. You're facing north. You know this the way you know your heart is beating, the way you know your lungs are full before you exhale. Direct knowledge. Unmediated. This is what the birds feel, what the sea turtles feel when they hatch on beaches and swim toward open ocean without ever having seen it. What the monarch butterflies feel when they migrate 4,000 kilometers to a forest in Mexico their great-great-grandparents left. Not learned, not taught, just known. You climb out, dry off. The attendant asks if you enjoyed it. You say yes. You don't mention that you could feel the Earth's magnetic field like a hand guiding your head. That sounds insane. That sounds like the kind of thing people say before they're gently led to psychiatric evaluation. But outside in the streets of Kreutzberg, other people are noticing too. You see a woman stop at a crosswalk, close her eyes, turn slightly left before the light changes. A man on a bicycle navigating without looking at street signs. A child pointing at the sky, not at the sun, but at something else, something invisible. On your phone, a new subreddit. R The Pull, created April 15th. Already 340,000 members. People posting about the sensation, comparing notes, trying to find language for something that doesn't have language. It's like gravity but sideways. I can feel the planet spinning and I hate it. I always know where north is now. My GPS app is basically decorative. My 3-year-old daughter pointed at the floor yesterday and said, "Down is moving." I didn't know what to tell her. You scroll through. Most of it is people trying to be rational, trying to explain it as stress, as anxiety, as some mass psychogenic effect triggered by too much news about comets and atmospheric anomalies. But buried in the rationalization, there's something else. Relief. Like people who've been lost finally finding a trail marker. One post stops you. I'm a neuroscientist. I study proprioception, the sense of where your body is in space. Proprioception uses mechanoreceptors in muscles and joints. It's well understood. But this is different. This is exteroreception feeling, where you are relative to the planet. I've been testing it. It's real. It's measurable. I can put people in rotating rooms, disorient them completely, and they still point north within 5 degrees. This shouldn't be possible, but it is. The post has 12,000 upvotes, 3,000 comments. You don't read them, you already know what they say. You take the U-Bahn to the Max Planck Institute. You have a meeting, not official. Just a conversation with someone who sent you an email 3 days ago. Subject line, "We need to talk about the iron." Her name is Dr. Keita Okoro, neuroscientist. Specializes in sensory integration. You meet in her lab, white walls the smell of ethanol and autoclave steam, EEG machines lined up like sleeping robots. She's younger than you expected, tired. She looks like she hasn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming," she says. No small talk. She pulls up a brain scan on her monitor. MRI, high resolution. The image shows a sagittal slice through a human head, gray matter, white matter ventricles, full of cerebrospinal fluid. She zooms in on a region near the nasal cavity, the ethmoid bone. In the scan, there are small, bright spots, clusters, dozens of them. Magnetite, she says, iron oxide crystals. We've known they're in human brains since the 1990s. Kirschvink at Caltech found them. Nobody knew what they did. Most people assumed they were just metabolic byproducts, biological noise. She pulls up another scan. Same region, different person, more bright spots, denser clusters. This is from March 2025, before the atmospheric anomaly. She pulls up a third scan. This is from April, same person. The bright spots have doubled, maybe tripled. The clusters are larger, more organized. You can see structure chains of crystals aligned in parallel, like iron filings on a paper over a magnet, like the magnetosomes in bacteria. They're growing, she says. Her voice is steady, but her hands aren't. The magnetite crystals in people's brains are growing, and they're organizing, arranging themselves into functional structures. You stare at the scan. How is that possible? We don't know. She switches to a different file. Microscopy images. Tissue samples stained with Prussian blue to highlight iron. The magnetite crystals are surrounded by something. Organic material, membranes. At first we thought it was just glial cells, support cells. But the membranes have a different composition, lipids we don't recognize, proteins that don't match any human genome sequence we have. She zooms in. The membrane structure looks almost crystalline, ordered, like a lattice. This started appearing in samples collected after March. It's not human tissue. It's not bacterial. It's not viral. It's just structure. Self-assembling architecture made of molecules that shouldn't be here. You feel cold. The lab is warm, but you feel cold anyway. Where is it coming from? The air. She pulls up a new chart, spectrometry data. The Grey-Jeet nanoparticles from the atmospheric entry aren't just iron sulfide. They're coded, organic molecules, glycine, alanine, serine amino acids, but also phospholipids, the building blocks of cell membranes. She looks at you. Her eyes are red. You wonder when she last slept. The nanoparticles are seeds. They enter through the nose, pass through the olfactory epithelium, migrate to the ethmoid bone, and when they get there, they don't just sit. They grow. They recruit local iron. They build membranes. They organize into what we think magnetosomes, like in bacteria, but optimized for human neurology. The structures are interfacing with the trigeminal nerve, the nerve that carries sensation from the face. There are branches that innervate the ethmoid bone. They are picking up magnetic field information and sending it to the brainstem. You sit down. The chair is cold metal. Everything is cold. So we're being colonized. No. She says it fast, definitive. That's what I thought at first. But colonization implies harm, implies parasitism. These structures aren't damaging tissue. They're not triggering immune response. They're not replicating beyond a stable density. They're just integrating, becoming part of the system. Symbiosis? Maybe. She pulls up another image. Brain activity map. fMRI scan showing blood flow. Areas of activation light up in red and yellow. This is a participant during a magnetoreception task. We rotate them in a chair blindfolded, then ask them to point north. This is their brain while they're orienting. The image shows activity in the brainstem, the vestibular nucleus balance and spatial orientation. But there's also activity in the entorhinal cortex, the region associated with spatial memory, grid cells, place cells, the internal GPS that lets you navigate without maps. The magnetic sense isn't isolated, it's integrated. It's connecting to existing navigation systems, enhancing them. People aren't just sensing north, they're building spatial maps that include magnetic topology. They're navigating in 4 dimensions, X, Y, Z, and field. She closes the laptop, looks at you. I've been testing this on myself. I can feel it, the pull, and it's not just direction, it's comfort. Like I've been slightly lost my entire life and now I'm not. You know what she means. You've felt it too. The sense of rightness when you face north. The subtle wrongness when you face south. Not good or bad, just aligned or misaligned. Like a melody resolving to tonic or staying suspended on the dominant. How many people have this now, you ask? We don't have global data. But based on regional studies, at least 20% of the population shows measurable magnetoreception, and it's growing. Every day more people report the sensation. By June, we estimate it could be 40%. By August, majority. And then, she doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. You both know. Once magnetoreception becomes ubiquitous, it stops being an anomaly. It becomes normal. It becomes baseline. The way color vision is baseline. The way hearing is baseline. Humanity will have a new sense, installed by cosmic delivery, activated by breathing. You leave the institute. Outside Berlin is bright. The sun is high. People are eating lunch at outdoor cafes, walking dogs, checking phones. Normal life. Except you notice things now. A jogger pausing at an intersection, orienting slightly before choosing a direction. A delivery cyclist navigating without looking at the map on his handlebars. A flock of pigeons wheeling in the sky, and every person on the street tracking them with their eyes, their heads, as if pulled by the same invisible string. You walk to the Spree River, sit on the bank. The water is green-brown, moving slowly east. Berlin is built on a plain. No mountains to block the sky, no valleys to trap the air. Just flat land and a grid of streets and the patient flow of a river that's been here longer than the city. You close your eyes, feel the sun on your face, feel the pull. North is behind you. The river flows east. You're oriented. You're aligned. You're part of a geometry that extends beyond your body, beyond the city, beyond the continent. And for the first time in your life, you're not alone in your skull. There's a signal, faint, constant, like a carrier wave underneath thought. You don't hear it, you don't see it. You just know it's there. The magnetic field of the planet, 25 to 65 microteslas depending on latitude. Invisible, intangible, and yet now somehow tangible, real, present. You think about the birds again, the turtles, the butterflies. They never lost this sense. They've been navigating by magnetoreception for millions of years. Humans had it too, maybe. There's evidence. The magnetite in our brains, the genetic remnants of cryptochrome proteins in our retinas. But we stopped using it. We built cities with street signs. We invented compasses. We launched GPS satellites. We externalized navigation until the internal system atrophied. But atrophy isn't death, it's dormancy. And dormancy can be reversed. 3IATLAS didn't give us something new, it gave us something back. You open your eyes, a swan is paddling upstream fighting the current. Its neck is curved, its feathers are white against the dark water. It knows where it's going. It doesn't need to see the destination, it just follows the field. On your phone, you check the news. The mainstream outlets are starting to notice. Articles with careful headlines. Scientists investigate reports of enhanced spatial awareness. Global study examines magnetic sense phenomenon. Nobody's saying the quiet part yet. Nobody's saying a comet delivered an upgrade and we installed it by breathing. But in the comment sections in the forums and the subreddits and Discord servers, people are saying it. They're comparing notes. They're testing each other. They're building databases of who can feel it and who can't and what the variables are. Altitude matters. People in mountains feel it stronger. The magnetic field is weaker there, fewer competing signals, clearer reception. Age matters. Children adapt faster. Their neurons are still plastic, still learning, still willing to accept new inputs without questioning. Exposure matters. People who spend time outdoors, people who exercise, people who practice meditation or sensory deprivation. They report stronger sensations, as if the sense needs quiet to emerge, as if it's been there all along, whispering but drowned out by the noise of modern life. You stand up, start walking, not toward home, toward north. Because north is where the institute is, where the data is, where the answers might be. But halfway there you stop, because you realize something. You're not looking for answers. You already have the answer. It's written in the magnetite crystals growing in your ethmoid bone. It's written in the Graegite nanoparticles settling in your lungs with every breath. It's written in the way your neurons are rewiring themselves to accept input from a sense that's older than language. The answer is you're changing. Everyone is changing. Slowly, quietly. One breath at a time. And the question isn't why. The question is into what? You stand on the sidewalk. People pass. A cyclist rings a bell. A tram hums by on rails. The city moves around you like blood through vessels. And underneath it, all the field. The invisible architecture. The lines of force that wrap the planet like longitude and latitude, made of magnetism instead of geometry. You breathe in, 10,000 gray-jet nanoparticles enter your lungs. 10,000 seeds. 10,000 instructions written in minerals and amino acids. They cross membranes. They find iron. They build structure. They teach. And your cells listen. Because your cells remember. Because 3.5 billion years ago, the first cells learned to navigate by magnetism before they learned to navigate by light. And that memory never left. It just waited. Patient, silent, encoded in the chemistry of iron and the geometry of crystals, waiting for someone to remember the address, waiting for the letter to arrive, waiting for the sky to fall softly, carrying not destruction, but restoration. You look up. The sky is blue, empty. 3IATLAS is gone, but its gift remains, falling, settling, teaching, and you're learning. One breath at a time, one crystal at a time, one moment of alignment at a time. The planet holds you, not with gravity alone, but with field, with force, with the oldest language, the first alphabet, written in iron, spoken in direction, and for the first time in 10,000 years of human civilization, you can hear it. Intuition is just pattern recognition your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. That's what the textbooks say. That's what the cognitive psychologists insist. A hunch is just data processed below the threshold of awareness. A gut feeling is just statistics running on wetware. But what if the patterns are older than awareness itself? You're in Kyoto, June 2025. The rainy season has started early. The air is thick with moisture and the smell of wet stone. You're sitting in Ryoanji Temple looking at 15 rocks arranged in white gravel, the most famous Zen garden in Japan, 500 years old, designed by someone whose name no one remembers. 15 rocks, but from any angle you can only see 14. The 15th is always hidden, always just out of sight, deliberate incompleteness. The garden teaches impermanence, teaches that seeking to see everything is itself the obstacle. But today you see something else. The rocks aren't randomly placed, they're aligned. Not to the cardinal directions that would be too obvious, but to something subtler. You close your eyes, feel the pull. The rocks are positioned along magnetic field lines. The garden is a map, not of space, of force. You open your eyes. The gravel is raked in parallel lines, concentric circles around each rock. The lines don't represent water, they represent field topology. The way magnetic force bends around iron, the way space curves around mass. Geometry made visible. 500 years ago, the designer felt this. Maybe didn't have words for it, maybe didn't know about magnetism or field theory, but felt it. Intuited it, built it into stone and gravel because the body knows things the mind hasn't learned yet. On your phone, you pull up a paper published 3 days ago. University of Tokyo. Title, Geomagnetic Alignment in Historical Architecture. Evidence from Japanese temple construction. 1400, 1600 CE. They surveyed 200 temples, measured orientations. Expected randomness may be cultural preference for south-facing entrances. What they found, 73% of temples built between 1400 and 1600 are aligned within 5 degrees of magnetic north. Not geographic north, magnetic north. Which means the builders were compensating for magnetic declination without instruments, without compasses, just intuition. The paper suggests heightened geomagnetic sensitivity during the Muromachi period, possibly due to atmospheric conditions, possibly due to solar activity, possibly due to something they don't have data for because ice cores from 1400s Japan don't exist. or possibly due to something that fell from the sky, something that seeded, something that taught. You stand up, walk through the garden. Your footsteps are silent on the wooden walkway. Rain starts light, almost mist. The rocks darken. The gravel stays white. You feel the pull stronger here than anywhere else you've been, as if the garden is amplifying it. As if 5 centuries of monks sitting here, breathing here, aligning here, have somehow tuned the space. There's a word in Japanese, ma. It means the space between things, the pause between notes, the emptiness that gives form meaning. Western philosophy struggles with ma, wants to fill it, define it, name it. But ma is sacred precisely because it's undefined. The magnetic field is ma. The space between is not empty. It's full of force, full of direction, full of memory. You leave the temple. Outside, Kyoto is humming with tourists and traffic, but you notice things. A woman navigating through a crowded street without looking at her phone. A child leading their parent by the hand, choosing turns with confidence. A flock of crows landing on power lines, all facing the same direction. Not into the wind, into the field. Your phone buzzes, email from Dr. Okoro in Berlin. Subject line, Stage 2. You open it. The magnetite structures are evolving. New samples from June show increased complexity. The crystals are forming chains-oriented arrays that look like antennae. We're seeing electrical activity. Low frequency, 0.1 to 10 Hertz. Same range as Schumann resonances. The electromagnetic frequencies that resonate in the cavity between Earth's surface and the ionosphere, created by lightning strikes, about 50 strikes per second globally. The cavity rings like a bell at 7.83 Hertz, fundamental frequency with harmonics at 14.3, 20.8, 27.3 Hertz. The same frequencies as human brain waves, theta waves, alpha waves, the frequencies of meditation, of sleep, of the hypnagogic state between waking and dreaming. You scroll down. She's attached a graph, EEG recordings from 20 participants, brainwave patterns measured while they're sitting, quietly eyes closed, focusing on the sensation of magnetic north. All 20 show synchronized oscillations at 783 Hertz, not forced, not entrained by external stimulus, just spontaneous coherence, like 20 separate instruments playing the same note without a conductor. The email continues. We think the magnetite structures are acting as biological resonators, picking up Schumann frequencies and transducing them into neural signals. It's like your brain is tuning into the planet's electromagnetic heartbeat. And not just receiving, possibly transmitting. We're detecting weak magnetic field generation from participants' heads. Femtotesla range, but measurable. You stop walking, stand in the middle of the sidewalk. People flow around you like water around a stone. You're generating a magnetic field. Your brain is. Your thoughts are. Consciousness isn't just electrochemical. It's electromagnetic. And if you're transmitting, if everyone is transmitting, then you open a new browser tab. Search Global Consciousness Project. The results flood in. Princeton University, 1998 to 2015. They placed random number generators around the world. True random quantum tunneling in semiconductors. No pattern, no prediction, pure noise, except during major global events. September 11th. Tsunamis, royal weddings, mass meditations. The random number generators showed correlation, small correlation, but statistically significant, as if collective human attention was somehow affecting quantum randomness. The project shut down in 2015, controversial, criticized, called pseudoscience by skeptics, called evidence of noosphere by believers. No consensus. But what if the mechanism wasn't consciousness affecting reality? What if it was consciousness affecting the electromagnetic field and the field affecting quantum systems? You keep walking, find yourself at Kiyomizu-dera Temple, built on a hillside wooden deck jutting out over a valley. The view is famous. Tourists take photos, but you're not looking at the view. You're feeling the elevation, higher altitude, thinner atmosphere, less electromagnetic noise from power lines and cell towers. The magnetic field is clearer here. The pull is stronger. You close your eyes, breathe, and you feel something new. Not just direction, not just the pull toward north, but something layered, like harmonics in music. The fundamental frequency is the field itself, static constant, the baseline hum of planetary magnetism. But on top of that, there are fluctuations, pulses, rhythms. You recognize one. 7.83 Hertz. Schumann resonance. The planet's electromagnetic heartbeat. You can't hear it. It's too low for audition, but you can feel it. Like a vibration in your chest, like standing near a large speaker playing a bass note below the threshold of hearing, but you feel it in your ribs. And there's something else. Faster rhythms, 10 Hertz, 14 Hertz, 20 Hertz. Alpha waves, beta waves, not from the planet, from people, from the city below. Millions of nervous systems generating fields, weak fields, but coherent, overlapping, interfering, creating patterns. You open your eyes. The view is the same. Kyoto spread out in rain and mist, but you're not seeing it, you're feeling it. The electromagnetic topology of human consciousness distributed across a city. Denser in some areas downtown, the train station, the universities where thousands of minds gather. Quieter in others, the mountains, the forests, the empty temples. A new sense, not magnetoreception, magnetoception. Awareness of the magnetic landscape shaped by living things. You sit down on a bench, rain falls on the wooden roof above, steady, patient. You think about migration, salmon returning to the river where they were born. They taste the water, yes, but they also follow magnetic signatures. Each river has a unique magnetic profile. Trace minerals iron deposits the angle of field lines at that latitude. The salmon imprint on it as fry. Remember it as adults. Follow it home across thousands of kilometers of ocean. Humans used to migrate before agriculture, before cities. We followed herds, followed seasons, followed coastlines and rivers and the paths of least resistance through mountain ranges. Did we remember routes the way salmon remember rivers? Did we imprint on magnetic landscapes the way birds imprint on star patterns? Maybe we still do. You think about the feeling of home, not the physical structure, but the place, the feeling of rightness when you're there, the feeling of wrongness when you're away. Is it just memory, just association, or is it magnetic imprinting? The unique electromagnetic signature of a place written into your neurons like a password. You don't remember learning. Your phone buzzes. News alert. WHO announces global survey. 40% of population reports enhanced spatial awareness. You open the article. The World Health Organization has been monitoring, taking reports, trying to understand. The numbers are climbing faster than projected, 40% now. Some regions higher: Scandinavia, Japan, New Zealand. It's island nations, mountain nations, places where people spend time near water, near elevation, near electromagnetic quiet. The article is careful, clinical. It doesn't say what everyone's thinking. It doesn't say we're changing. It says we're observing a phenomenon, further study needed. No cause for alarm. But in the comments, people are alarmed, not frightened, excited, overwhelmed, trying to describe what can't be described. I dreamed in magnetic fields last night. I don't know how else to say it. I can feel my wife in the next room, not hear her, feel her, like she has a magnetic presence. I went hiking, got lost, didn't panic, just closed my eyes and knew which way the trail was, followed the pull, found it. My grandfather has dementia, hasn't recognized me in 2 years. Yesterday he looked at me and said, "You're aligned now, you feel like family." I think he's sensing me magnetically. You close the app, stand up, walk back down the hill. The rain is heavier now. You don't have an umbrella, don't care. The The water is warm. The city smells like wet asphalt and ozone and something else. Something metallic. Something you've been smelling since March. You pass a shrine, small, tucked between buildings. There's a stone statue of Fox, the messenger of Inari, the kami of rice and fertility and prosperity. The fox is sitting tail curled looking north, not by chance, by design. 500 years ago, someone carved this fox and positioned it to align with the field, because the field was sacred, because direction was divine. You bow, not to the statue, to the awareness that built it, the intuition that knew what science would later prove, the body wisdom that didn't need equations. On your way back to the hotel, you stop at a convenience store, buy tea. The clerk is young, maybe 19. She hands you change and your fingers brush. For a second you feel it. Her field, faint but distinct. Like a magnetic fingerprint, not strong enough to describe. Just present, just there. She feels it too. You can tell. Her eyes widen slightly. She bows deeper than necessary. Says nothing. Doesn't need to. You leave. Walk through rain that's becoming night. The streetlights flicker on. Kyoto transforms into constellations of sodium vapor and LED. But underneath the light, the field. Underneath the noise, the pulse. You think about Dr. Okoro's email. Stage 2. The magnetite structures are evolving, forming antennae, receiving, transmitting. You wonder what stage 3 is, what stage 10 is, what the endpoint looks like, or maybe there is no endpoint. Maybe this is just how life works. Constant upgrade, constant adaptation, constant dialogue between organism and environment. The environment speaks in molecules and fields. The organism listens with cells and crystals. Evolution isn't random mutation and selection. It's conversation. It's call and response. 3IATLAS called. Humanity is responding. You reach the hotel. Small, traditional. Tatami floors and paper screens. You take off your shoes. The owner greets you. Older woman, white hair, kind face. She looks at you and smiles. You're walking differently, she says in Japanese. More centered. You don't know how to respond. You just nod. She nods back. Good. It's good to know where you stand. In your room, you lie on the futon. The ceiling is dark wood. Old, solid. You close your eyes, feel the pull. North is to your left. The field wraps around you like a blanket, like gravity but gentler, like being held by geometry. You breathe. Each inhale brings more Brigitte, more seeds, more instructions. They settle in your lungs, cross into blood, find their way to bone, to brain, to the places where iron lives and crystals grow. And somewhere in the dark behind your closed eyes, something is listening. Not your ears, not your thoughts. Something deeper. The part of you that's older than language, older than humanity. The part that remembers when cells first learned to navigate oceans by starlight written in magnetism. That part is waking up, stretching, remembering how to read the old alphabet, the one written in field lines and force, the one that says, you are not lost, you are held, you are known. And in the rain-soaked night in a city that's been listening for centuries, you finally hear it. Memory lives in the body before it lives in the mind. Your muscles remember how to ride a bicycle years after the last time. Your fingers remember chords on a guitar you haven't touched since college. Your tongue remembers your mother's name even when dementia erases the face. But there are older memories, deeper ones, written not in synapses but in molecules, in the coil of DNA, in the spiral of proteins, in the lattice of minerals that build bone. You're in Reykjavik, July 2025. The sun doesn't set, just circles the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and pearl. You're at the University of Iceland in a lab that smells like liquid nitrogen and centrifuge oil. Dr. Sigrid Halldórsdóttir is showing you something under an electron microscope. We extracted these from bone marrow samples, she says. Her voice is quiet. She's been awake too long. You recognize the look. Femur, healthy donors, age range 20 to 70. On the screen, magnetite crystals, but not random. Organized. Chains of octahedral crystals, each 30 to 50 nanometers across, aligned in single files like beads on a string. Exactly the structure found in magnetotactic bacteria. Exactly the structure that shouldn't exist in human tissue. These are from samples collected in June, she says. Compare to March. She switches the image. Same magnification, same tissue type, but the crystals are sparse, scattered. No chains, no organization, just isolated grains of magnetite floating in the cellular matrix like dust in sunlight. In 3 months, the structure changed completely. The crystals didn't just multiply, they organized, self-assembled into functional magnetosomes. She zooms out, shows you the three-dimensional reconstruction. The magnetosome chains run parallel to the long axis of bone. North-south alignment, even in extracted tissue, even in death. The crystals remember their orientation. It's not just in bone, she continues. We're finding organized magnetite in other tissues, heart muscle, liver, kidneys, even adipose tissue. The distribution pattern suggests targeted deposition. The nanoparticles from atmospheric exposure are seeding growth throughout the body. You lean closer to the screen. The chains are beautiful, geometric, precise, like crystal gardens grown in zero gravity, like something designed by an intelligence that thinks in symmetry. What about the brain? You ask. She hesitates, pulls up another file. Brain tissue is harder to sample, ethics. But we got post-mortem samples from 3 individuals who died in June, natural causes. 2 were in their 80s, 1 was 47, car accident. The image shows dense clusters of magnetite in the ethmoid bone as expected, but there's more. Chains extending into the olfactory bulb, into the hippocampus, into the amygdala, following neural pathways like vines following trellises. The crystals are integrating with neural architecture. We see them adjacent to synapses, wrapped around axons. They're not disrupting function, they're augmenting it, creating new interfaces. She switches to another image. This is the pineal gland from the 47-year-old. The pineal, the third eye, the seat of the soul in Descartes' philosophy. In reality, a small endocrine gland that produces melatonin, regulates sleep, responds to light. Ancient evolutionary. Even simple vertebrates have it. On the screen, the pineal is studded with magnetite. Not just crystals, structures. Organized arrays that look like circuit boards, like antennae farms. Like someone built a radio telescope inside a grain of rice. Melatonin production was normal, Sigrid says. But we found something else. The tissue was generating electromagnetic pulses, extremely low frequency, 0.1 to 1 hertz, below normal neural firing rates. We don't know what it means. You stare at the image. The pineal gland has always been mysterious. Calcifies with age in most people, accumulates calcium phosphate crystals, loses function, but in some individuals it stays active. Correlates with reports of enhanced intuition, vivid dreams, sensitivity to electromagnetic fields. Mystics called it the third eye because they felt it. Felt something in the center of the head, something that sees without eyes, knows without thinking. Maybe they weren't being metaphorical. Have you tested yourself? You ask. Sigrid nods. MRI last week. My pineal has 3 times normal magnetite density. I've been in Reykjavik my whole life, breathing clean air, low pollution. But after March, she trails off, looks at her hands. I can feel magnetic storms now. The aurora. When it's active, I feel it hours before it's visible, like pressure behind my eyes, like the sky is humming. You know what she means. You felt it 2 nights ago, standing outside in the midnight sun, watching the northern horizon. The sky was clear, no aurora, but you felt it, crackling, building, and 4 hours later, the lights came. Green curtains dancing across the north, charged particles from the sun colliding with Earth's magnetic field. You weren't predicting, you were sensing. Real-time data from the magnetosphere delivered through crystals in your skull. Sigrid pulls up a chart. We're tracking reports globally. People near the magnetic poles, Arctic, Antarctic, report the strongest sensitivity. The field lines are vertical there, more concentrated. But even equatorial populations are noticing. Solar storms, geomagnetic disturbances. Some people are feeling them before instruments detect them. How is that possible? The instruments measure field strength. Teslas, micro-Teslas, but living systems might be responding to rate of change. Delta B, the derivative. How fast the field is shifting. That's what causes the sensation, not the field itself, but the field moving. You think about that. Rate of change, velocity in magnetic space. Your nervous system as a differential equation solver, calculating derivatives without math, just feeling. There's something else, Sigrid says. She pulls up a graph. 2 lines, 1 blue, 1 red. This is heart rate variability data. Blue line participant sitting quietly, eyes closed, focusing on breathing. Red line, same participant, same conditions, but focusing on the sensation of magnetic north. The blue line is chaotic, spiky, high variability. The red line is smooth, regular, coherent. The heart rate is locking into a rhythm. 0.1 Hertz 10-second cycles. The same frequency the pineal gland was generating. We're seeing this across all participants. When people focus on magnetoreception, their heart rhythms synchronize. And not just individually. When multiple people are in the same room focusing together, their heart rates entrain. They lock phase, beat together. Like a choir, you say. Like a choir, but involuntary, autonomic. The hearts are communicating through the electromagnetic field. We think the magnetite structures are mediating it, acting as transceivers, biological radio. You sit back. The chair is cold metal. The lab is bright. Outside, Reykjavik is awake in perpetual daylight. People walking, working, living, not knowing their hearts are learning to broadcast. Sigrid closes the laptop. There's a hypothesis I've been afraid to publish. Want to hear it? You nod. What if this has happened before? What if anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens 300,000 years ago, didn't look like us inside? What if the Greyjeet seeding events happen periodically, rare, maybe once every 50,000 years? And each time human neurology upgrades, new senses, new capabilities, and we look back at the archaeological record and call it cultural revolution, call it symbolic thought, call it the cognitive leap. But maybe it was just biology receiving new hardware. She pulls up a timeline. 70,000 years ago, Toba supervolcano nearly wiped out humanity. Population bottleneck. Maybe 10,000 individuals survived. Right after that explosion of symbolic behavior, cave art, complex tools, long-distance trade. We call it the Upper Paleolithic Revolution. We assume it was social, cultural. But what if ash from Toba carried something? What if the survivors inherited more than genes? You look at the timeline, the gaps between events, 70,000 years ago, then silence, then 40,000 years ago, another leap, figurative art, bone flutes, burial rituals, then 12,000 years ago, agriculture, cities, writing, each leap separated by tens of thousands of years, each marked by atmospheric events, volcanic eruptions, impact winters, mass auroras in historical records, or comets, passing close, fragmenting, seeding. We think evolution is gradual, Sigrid says. Slow mutation, selection pressure, millions of years, But what if it's punctuated? What if the punctuation isn't extinction events? It's delivery events, upgrades installed from outside, and the species that survive are the ones who accept the update. You think about Neanderthals. They were smart, had brains as large as Homo sapiens, larger even. They made tools, buried their dead, lived in Europe for 200,000 years. Then Homo sapiens arrived, and within 10,000 years Neanderthals were gone, not outcompeted, absorbed. The DNA evidence shows interbreeding. Homo sapiens carry 2% Neanderthal genes, but only Homo sapiens survived as a species. What was the difference? What did Homo sapiens have that Neanderthals didn't? Maybe the ability to accept new sensory input. Maybe the neural plasticity to integrate magnetoreception. Maybe the openness to change. You leave the lab. Outside, the air is cold despite the sun. Iceland in July. The light is everywhere, but the warmth is fragile. You walk toward the harbor. Boats bob in water so clear you can see the bottom. Rocks, kelp. Fish moving like thoughts through a transparent mind. On your phone, a message from someone you don't know. Just a link, no context. You click it. A video, posted 12 hours ago. Already 8 million views. The title, "We're All Feeling It." The video is simple. A person standing in a field, no face shown, just body language. They extend their arms, turn slowly, stop, point. The camera pans. They're pointing at a mountain, miles away, behind clouds. Text appears. "I've never been here before, but I knew that mountain was there. I felt it. The mass, the iron in the rock. It has a magnetic presence." The video cuts. Another person, different location, same gesture, pointing at something invisible, finding it anyway. Cut, cut, cut. Dozens of people, different countries, different ages, all demonstrating the same thing, sensing topology, feeling geology, navigating by mass and field instead of sight and memory. The comments are flooded. Millions of people saying me too. I feel it too. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought it was just me. But it's not just you. It's everyone. It's happening everywhere. The threshold has been crossed. Magnetoreception isn't rare anymore. It's common. It's normal. It's human. You close the app. Look at the harbor, the boats, the water. You close your eyes, feel the pull. But it's not just north now. You feel the density of the land, the difference between soil and bedrock, the iron deposits under the city, the volcanic fissures running northeast part of the mid-Atlantic ridge, the place where Earth is tearing itself apart and building itself new. Iceland is wound, a scar where mantle becomes crust, and you can feel it, the heat, the motion, the slow divergence at 2 centimeters per year. Your magnetoreception is resolving topology, depth, density, not vision, but perception. 3-dimensional awareness of what's below, what's around, what's distant. Your phone rings, unknown number, you answer. Is this a woman's voice? Hesitant. "I got your name from Dr. Okoro. I'm calling from Vancouver. I'm a geologist. I need to tell someone." "Go ahead." "I've been mapping mineral deposits my whole career, 20 years. I use ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, seismic surveys. But last week I was hiking, just walking, and I felt iron, underground. I couldn't see it, couldn't measure it, but I knew it was there. So I marked the location, brought my equipment, and it was there, exactly where I felt it. A deposit we didn't know existed." Her voice shakes. "I tested myself. 5 more times, 5 more locations. I was right every time. I don't need instruments anymore. I can feel the geology. And if I can feel it, how many others can? How many miners, how many engineers were going to find resources we didn't know existed? Tap reserves we couldn't locate. The entire extractive industry is about to change." You don't know what to say. The implications are too large. If humans can sense mineral deposits, sense mass concentrations, sense the architecture of Earth's crust, then mapping becomes obsolete. surveying becomes redundant. We become the instruments. "There's more," she says. "I can feel the ocean floor. I'm standing on the coast right now, eyes closed, and I can feel the topology, the continental shelf, the drop-off, the ridges. It's like having sonar in my brain, like I'm a whale." Whales, dolphins, marine mammals with magnetite in their brains, navigating thousands of kilometers of featureless ocean, finding breeding grounds, migration routes, coastlines in fog, not by sight, by sensing the magnetic map of the seafloor. Humans used to be able to navigate like this, before maps, before compasses, before GPS. We crossed oceans in canoes, found islands no one had seen before. Polynesians reached Easter Island, Vikings reached Greenland. How did they navigate without instruments? Maybe they had instruments, just biological ones. Maybe the wayfinders felt the field, felt the topology, followed the pull, and called it intuition, called it ancestral knowledge, called it magic. But it was just biology. Listening to the planet, reading the map written in magnetism and mass. You thank the geologist. End the call, stand at the harbor's edge. The water laps at concrete, rhythmic, patient. You think about memory, not human memory, earth memory. The rocks remember their formation. The magnetic signature locked into cooled magma, paleomagnetism. The record of ancient field directions frozen in stone. The planet is a library, and you're learning to read it. You breathe in. Greygeat settles in your lungs, finds blood, finds bone, builds structure, teaches. And somewhere in the darkness of your marrow, crystals align, chains grow, antennae form, tuning your body to frequencies older than language, older than consciousness, older than the species. The sky is white with midnight sun. The air tastes like salt and iron. And in the cold, clean light of an Arctic summer, you feel it. The slow spin of the planet, the tilt of the axis, the wobble of precession. Motion too slow for eyes, but fast enough for crystals. You are becoming compass, becoming map, becoming the intersection of body and field, of biology and geology, of memory and magnetism. And the earth, patient and vast, holds you in its field like a mother holds a child, teaching you one crystal at a time how to find your way home. Gratitude is a strange emotion. It doesn't ask for reasons, doesn't require understanding. You can be grateful for sunlight without knowing photosynthesis, grateful for breath without understanding gas exchange. The body knows how to thank before the mind knows why. You're in Nairobi, August 2025. The equator runs through this city invisible but precise. 0 degrees latitude, the place where Earth's spin is fastest. 1,670 kilometers per hour. You're standing still but hurtling through space, and somehow your body knows this now. Feels the centrifugal force, the slight lightness, the way gravity loosens its grip, just a fraction. You're at a community center in Kibera, one of the largest informal settlements in Africa. 1 million people living in a space meant for a fraction of that. Narrow alleys, corrugated metal roofs, the smell of cooking fires and red soil after rain, but also laughter, music, the sound of children playing games you don't recognize. Dr. Amara Okonkwo invited you here. She's a neuroscientist from Lagos, studies social bonding, oxytocin, the neurochemistry of connection. She's been tracking something since June, something she calls field empathy. Come, she says, leads you into a room, 20 people sitting in a circle, mixed ages, some elderly, some young. They're not talking, not moving much, just sitting, eyes closed, breathing together. You sit, close your eyes, feel the pull. North is to your left, but there's something else. Presences, not visual, not auditory, but felt. Like standing near a fire and feeling the warmth without touching the flame. Each person in the circle has a magnetic presence, faint, individual, like signatures written in field lines, and they're synchronized. You can feel it. Their heart rates, their breath patterns, all falling into rhythm, not forced, not guided, just happening. Like pendulum clocks on the same wall swinging together through vibration in the wood. Dr. Okonkwo whispers, "Stay with it, don't think, just feel." You breathe, in, out, and slowly your heartbeat begins to align, not consciously. You're not controlling it, it's just happening. Your cardiac rhythm, finding the frequency the group is already holding. 0.1 hertz 10 seconds per cycle. The resonance frequency of the cardiovascular system, the frequency where heart rate variability is highest, where the autonomic nervous system finds balance, coherence. That's the technical term. When heart breath and brain waves synchronize, happens during meditation, during deep sleep, during moments of flow. But this is different. This is collective coherence. 20 nervous systems and training through electromagnetic coupling. You feel something warm in your chest, not physical warmth, emotional warmth. Like being welcomed, like coming home to a house where people are waiting, where you're expected, where you belong. Oxytocin. Your brain is releasing it. The hormone of trust, of bonding, of social connection. It floods your system during hugs, during childbirth, during moments when the boundary between self and other blurs, when you remember you're not alone. But oxytocin release usually requires touch, eye contact, social cues. This group isn't touching. Eyes are closed, no words, just proximity. Just the electromagnetic field generated by their hearts, their brains creating a space of coherence that your nervous system recognizes and joins. Someone starts to cry, soft, not sad. You can tell without looking. It's the crying that comes from relief, from tension finally releasing, from feeling held. Dr. Okonkwo opens her eyes, signals the group. Slowly people begin to stir. Open eyes, look at each other. Smiling, some reach out, touch hands. The coherence held even as awareness returns. Outside, you sit with Dr. Okonkwo on a bench. The sun is hot, the sky is vast. She pulls out a tablet, shows you data. We've been running these sessions for 6 weeks, 3 times a week, same participants. We measure heart rate variability, cortisol levels, oxytocin levels before and after. She pulls up a graph. Before March, before 3IATLAS, oxytocin increase from group meditation was around 15%. Modest, reproducible. But since June, since magnetoreception became widespread, the increase is 68%, 4 times higher. Why? We think the magnetite structures are mediating social bonding. When people are in close proximity, their electromagnetic fields overlap, interfere, create patterns, and the brain interprets these patterns as social cues, as presence, as connection. She switches to another graph. This is even more interesting. We tested empathy, the ability to recognize emotions in others. Standard tests show photos of faces, ask participants to identify the emotion. Before June, accuracy was 71%, normal. But after 6 weeks of coherence training, accuracy is 89%. They're reading emotions better. Not just reading, feeling. They report knowing what someone else is feeling before seeing their face, just being near them. The field carries information. Emotional state affects heart rhythm. Heart rhythm affects the electromagnetic field. The field is sensed by others with magnetoreception. It's a feedback loop. Emotion becomes shared. You think about what that means. If emotions are contagious through electromagnetic fields, if proximity creates empathy not just through mirror neurons, but through field resonance, if the boundary between individuals is softer than anatomy suggests. We're testing it in conflict resolution, Dr. Okonkwo continues. Taking people in disputes, neighbors, family members. We have them sit together, breathe together, enter coherence. And something shifts. The anger doesn't disappear, but it becomes harder to sustain. Because you're feeling the other person, not imagining their perspective, actually feeling their emotional state. She shows you a video, two women, middle-aged, sitting across from each other, arms crossed, faces tight, a dispute over property, land boundaries, years of resentment. The mediator asks them to close their eyes. Breathe, just 5 minutes. At first, nothing. Tension held. But around minute 3, something changes. Shoulders drop, breathing deepens. One woman's hand uncrosses, reaches toward the other, not touching, just extending. And the other woman's hand reaches back. They sit like that, hands almost touching, breathing together. When they open their eyes, they're both crying. The dispute doesn't resolve immediately, but the conversation changes. Less accusation, more listening. The magnetoreception created a bridge. The field carried what words couldn't. We're seeing this everywhere, Dr. Okonkwo says. Schools, prisons, hospitals. When people with magnetoreception are in proximity, social cohesion increases. Conflict decreases. It's not magic, it's biology. We're wired for connection, but the wiring was dormant. Now it's active. You walk through Kybera. The alleys are narrow, people are close, bodies navigating tight spaces with practiced ease, children running, women carrying water, men repairing metal sheets, everyone moving in a dance that looks chaotic but isn't. Everyone sensing everyone else, not consciously, just knowing where people are, where they're going, how to move without collision. You realize this is why cities work. This is why 1 million people can live in a space this dense without constant conflict. Not just social rules, not just habit, but field awareness. Each person a node in an electromagnetic network. Each movement creating ripples that others sense and adjust to. Before March, you would have called it spatial awareness, peripheral vision, subconscious processing. But now you feel it directly. The presence of bodies, the magnetic signatures, the field topology created by human density. A child runs past. You step aside before conscious thought, not reaction. Anticipation, you felt her trajectory in the field, felt the motion, adjusted, smooth, automatic. She looks back, smiles, keeps running. You stop at a small church, concrete walls, metal roof, open door. Inside, people are singing, hymns in Swahili, harmonies weaving through each other, complex, beautiful. You don't understand the words, but you feel the meaning. Joy, gratitude, the sense of being held by something larger. You sit in the back. Close your eyes, feel the voices, but also feel the fields. The singers are synchronized, not just in pitch and rhythm, in cardiac coherence, their hearts beating together, their electromagnetic fields overlapping, creating a collective field that pulses with the music. This is worship, not the words, not the theology, but the coherence, the entrainment, the dissolution of boundaries, the feeling that you are part of a body larger than your own, that you are held, known, welcomed. Oxytocin floods your system. You're not religious. Haven't been to a service in years, but you feel it anyway. The gratitude, the connection, the sense that something is listening. Not a god, not a person, but the field itself. The electromagnetic presence of people breathing together, singing together, being together. The song ends. Silence. But the coherence remains. The field holds. People sit quietly. No rush to leave. No need to fill the space with noise. Just presence, shared, wordless. Outside, the sun is setting. The equator doesn't have long twilights. Light becomes dark in minutes. You walk back through the alleys. Lanterns flicker on. Cooking fires glow. The air smells like maize and charcoal and the particular sweetness of tropical night. Dr. Okonkwo is waiting at the community center. She's on the phone, looks up. That was Geneva, WHO is calling an emergency meeting, September. They want to discuss the neurological changes, the magnetoreception, the social effects. They're worried. Some governments are worried. If people can sense each other's emotions, if empathy is becoming involuntary, if populations are synchronizing, what does that mean for control, for authority, for the structures that depend on separation? You understand the fear. Power thrives on division, on othering, on the ability to dehumanize. But if you can feel the humanity of others, if proximity creates connection, if the field doesn't recognize borders or categories or the artificial distinctions that keep people apart, then the architecture of control starts to crack. What do you think will happen? You ask. She shrugs. I think they'll try to study it, regulate it, maybe restrict it. But you can't regulate breathing. You can't restrict atmospheric exposure. The gray sheet is everywhere. The installation is complete. We're all upgraded now. The only question is whether we accept it or fight it. You look at the sky. Stars are appearing. The Milky Way is visible here, away from city light. The galactic plane stretching across the dark. Billions of stars, trillions of planets. And somewhere out there, maybe another comet is being prepared. Another delivery scheduled. Another species waiting to remember what they forgot. 3IATLAS didn't bring invasion. It brought reunion. Reunion with the sense we lost when we stopped needing to migrate. When we built walls and borders and the illusion of separation. When we forgot that we're part of a field, part of a web, part of something that breathes together. You close your eyes, feel the people around you, their presence, their fields. The way Kybera hums with human electromagnetic activity. 1,000,000 hearts beating, 1,000,000 brains thinking, creating a field topology that's unique, that's alive, that's beautiful in its complexity. And you feel grateful, not to a person, not to a god, but to the universe, to the patient machinery of evolution, to the comets that seed and the planets that receive, to the 5 billion years of experimentation that led to this moment, to the magnetite crystals growing in your bones, to the graphite nanoparticles settling in your lungs, to the slow, gentle upgrade that's teaching you how to feel connected in a world that spent centuries teaching separation. Your phone buzzes, a message from someone in the meditation circle. Just 2 words, thank you. You don't know why they're thanking you. You didn't do anything, just sat, breathed, entered coherence. But maybe that's enough. Maybe presence is the gift. Maybe the field itself is gratitude, the electromagnetic acknowledgement that we're here, together, aligned. You type back, thank you, and you mean it. Not politeness, not ritual, but genuine gratitude for the reminder that isolation is an illusion, that the boundary of your skin is not the boundary of yourself, that you extend into space through invisible fields, that others extend into you, that we're all overlapping, interfering, creating patterns that no single person generates alone. The night is warm, the stars are cold, and somewhere between earth and sky, the field holds everything, wraps the planet in invisible force, guides the birds, guides the butterflies, guides the magnetotactic bacteria swimming through ancient oceans, and now finally guides you back to the knowledge that you're not separate, never were, never could be, just temporarily forgot, just needed a reminder written in iron, delivered by a comet, installed with every breath. Welcome home. The field whispers, welcome home. Music doesn't live in the notes. It lives in the spaces between them, the silence that gives rhythm meaning, the pause that makes melody ache. Your ear hears sound, but your body hears structure, pattern, the mathematics of vibration translated into feeling. You're in Vienna. September 2025. The city Mozart built. The city Beethoven walked through when he was going deaf, hearing symphonies in his skull that the world couldn't hear yet. You're sitting in the Musikverein, golden hall, red velvet seats, acoustics so perfect that a whisper from the stage reaches the back row clear as prayer. The orchestra is tuning, instruments finding each other. Oboe gives the A 440 Hz, the standard. Everything else adjusts. Violins, cellos, brass. Slowly chaos becomes consonants. Individual voices becoming one voice. You close your eyes, feel the pull. North is behind you, but there's something else. The musicians, 70 of them on stage, each one generating an electromagnetic field. Heartbeats, neural activity, muscle contractions, and as they tune, something shifts. The fields are synchronizing, not just the sound, the biology. 70 hearts finding a common rhythm before the first note is played. The conductor walks out. Applause, silence. She raises her hands. The hall holds its breath. Downbeat. The sound hits you not through your ears first, but through your chest. The low strings, double basses vibrating at 40 Hz, below the threshold of distinct pitch. You don't hear it as music. You hear it as pressure, as physical presence. Your ribcage resonates, your heart adjusts its rhythm. Entrainment, forced oscillation, your body becoming part of the instrument. The melody enters. Violins, high, clear, 800 Hz. And something strange happens. You feel the frequency, not metaphorically. You feel it as field fluctuation. The magnetite structures in your brain are responding to the sound waves. Sound is pressure. Pressure moves tissue. Tissue contains magnetite crystals. Crystals move in response to mechanical stress. Movement generates electromagnetic signals. The music is being transduced into magnetic language your nervous system can read. You open your eyes, look around. Everyone in the hall is synchronized. You can feel it. The collective cardiac rhythm, the shared breathing pattern. 2,000 people becoming one organism, one resonant system. The orchestra provides the frequency. The audience locks onto it. Coherence at scale. The piece is Beethoven, Symphony No. 9, the Ode to Joy, written by a deaf man. He never heard this symphony performed. Conducted the premiere in 1824, with his back to the audience beating time, while another conductor guided the musicians. The audience applauded. Beethoven didn't hear, didn't turn around. A soloist had to turn him by the shoulders so he could see the ovation. But maybe he felt it. Maybe his magnetoreception was heightened, compensating for lost hearing. Maybe he felt the coherence, the field generated by hundreds of hearts beating together, the electromagnetic signature of collective joy. And maybe that's what he was conducting toward, not sound, but resonance. The second movement builds, scherzo, fast, agitated. The rhythm is 3/4, but feels like 6/8. Ambiguous. Your heartbeat tries to lock on, fails, tries again. The music is deliberately destabilizing, creating tension. Your autonomic nervous system responds. Cortisol rises slightly. Adrenaline, not fear, but activation. The body preparing. For what? For resolution. And then it comes. Third movement, adagio, slow, in B-flat major, the key of tenderness, of introspection. The strings sing a melody that sounds like breath. Long phrases. No hurry. Your heart rate drops. 60 beats per minute. Resting. The coherence deepens. You can feel the person next to you. Not see. Feel. Their cardiac rhythm. Their breathing. You're oscillating together. Locked in phase like grandfather clocks in the same room. There's a word in music theory, Stimmung, German, means tuning, but also mood, atmosphere, the space that music creates, not physical space, emotional space, vibrational space. And now, you understand it's literal. Music creates a tuned electromagnetic environment, a field shaped by organized sound, and everyone in that field tunes to it, becomes it. The fourth movement, the famous one. The chorus enters. Human voices, the most complex instrument. each voice generating not just sound but overtones, harmonics. The fundamental frequency plus integer multiples. A single voice contains a spectrum. 50 voices contain a universe. The text is Schiller. Alle Menschen werden Brüder. All people become brothers. And in this moment in this hall, it's not metaphor. The electromagnetic fields of 2,000 people are overlapping, interfering constructively, creating standing wave patterns. You are not separate from the person beside you. You are nodes in the same vibrational matrix. Peaks and valleys in the same wave function. You feel tears on your face, don't remember crying, don't remember deciding to cry. It's just happening. The music is triggering oxytocin release, dopamine, serotonin, the neurochemical cascade of bonding, of belonging, of being held by something larger than yourself. But it's not just chemical, it's physical. The sound waves are literally moving your tissue, 20 to 20,000 hertz, the range of human hearing. But you're feeling beyond that range now. Infrasound, below 20 hertz. The double basses, the timpani, vibrations that shake buildings, shake bones, shake the magnetite crystals in your skull. They're oscillating, generating signals. Your brain is receiving music not through the cochlea alone, through the field. The finale builds, more voices, more instruments. The melody that everyone knows, the melody kindergartners sing, the melody that became an anthem, and the hall is vibrating. Physically, the walls, the floor, the air itself is a standing wave. Pressure nodes where the sound is loudest, antinodes where it's quiet. You're sitting in a node. The volume is overwhelming, but you're not covering your ears. You're leaning into it, letting it wash through you, letting it reorganize you. The last chord, sustained, forever, 5 seconds that feel like 5 minutes, and then release. Silence, the most profound silence, the silence after music, when the coherence holds even though the sound has stopped, when 2,000 hearts are still beating together, still breathing together, still tuned to the same frequency, even though the orchestra has lowered their instruments. Applause. But even that is synchronized, not rhythmically, emotionally. The clapping isn't habit, it's gratitude. The body's way of saying thank you. Thank you for the coherence. Thank you for the reminder that we're connected. Thank you for the proof that separation is temporary and resonance is real. You leave the hall. Outside, Vienna is cool, September evening. The streets are full of people leaving other concerts, other performances. You can feel them, the residual coherence, the people who just experience collective resonance. They walk differently, softer, more aware of each other. The music has tuned them. You walk to the Danube, sit on the bank. The river is dark, reflects city lights in broken fragments. You think about Beethoven again, going deaf at 30, losing the one sense his entire identity was built on, the despair, the Heiligenstadt Testament, the letter he wrote contemplating suicide. But only art held me back, for it seemed to me impossible to leave the world until I had produced all that I felt was within me. He didn't kill himself, he composed. For another 25 years. Composed music he couldn't hear, but maybe he could feel it. Maybe his nervous system learned to sense the vibrations directly, through bone conduction, through the magnetite in his skull, through the field generated by the orchestra he was conducting, synesthesia, cross-wiring of senses. Some people see colors when they hear music, some taste shapes. Beethoven might have felt music as magnetic presence, as field topology, as pressure in space and the geometry of vibration. And now, maybe everyone can. The magnetoreception has created a new channel, a way to perceive organized sound as organized field. Music becomes not just auditory, but electromagnetic, felt in the bones, in the blood, in the crystals that are still growing, still organizing, still learning. Your phone buzzes. An article. published 2 hours ago. Global Study Music Preference Shifts Following Neurological Changes. You open it. Researchers from Juilliard and MIT. They surveyed 50,000 people, asked about music listening habits before and after June 2025. The results are striking. Preference for rhythmically complex music has increased 34%. Preference for music with strong low-frequency content has increased 28%. Preference for choral music, multiple voices and harmony has increased 41%. The interpretation, people with magnetoreception are drawn to music that creates more complex electromagnetic fields. Bass frequencies generate stronger mechanical vibrations, more crystal movement, more magnetic signal. Complex rhythms create more intricate entrainment patterns. Multiple voices create interference patterns, harmonies and overtones that the magnetic sense can perceive as structure. Music is evolving, or rather, humans are evolving to perceive music differently. Composers are noticing. The article mentions a new piece commissioned by the Berlin Philharmonic, written specifically for magnetically sensitive audiences. Uses infrasound generators, frequencies below hearing range, but felt. Felt in the chest, in the skull, in the crystals. The piece premiered last week. The reviews are confused. Some critics said it was silent, that the composer failed. Others said it was the most powerful experience they had ever had, that they felt the music without hearing it, that it moved them in ways sound never had. The critics who said it was silent tested negative for magnetoreception. The ones who felt it tested positive. The piece was a diagnostic, a way to measure who has crossed the threshold, who has the new sense active. You think about that. Music as diagnostic. Music as revelation. The thing that makes invisible differences visible. That separates those who can feel the field from those who can't. Yet, a street musician is playing nearby. Violin, solo. You walk over, she's young, maybe 20, playing Bach, Chaconne in D minor. One of the most difficult pieces ever written for violin. 15 minutes of continuous music, no accompaniment, just one instrument, one person. But you feel it as more than one. You feel the overtones, the harmonics generated by the strings. Each note contains multiples. The fundamental plus the second harmonic, the third, the fourth. She's playing one line, but you're hearing 5, 6. The violin is a fractal, self-similar at different scales, and your magnetoreception is resolving the structure, hearing the architecture of sound. She finishes, opens her eyes, sees you, smiles. You put money in her case. She nods thanks. Then she says something, in German. You don't understand? She switches to English. You felt it, didn't you? The harmonics. I've been playing this piece for 5 years, but since July, people respond differently. They're not just listening, they're feeling. And when they feel it, I feel them feeling it. Their hearts sync with mine. And the music becomes a conversation, not between me and the violin, between me and the audience, through the field. You nod, don't know what to say. She smiles wider. Music was always supposed to be this way. We just forgot. For a few thousand years, we forgot. But now, we remember. Now we feel what Beethoven felt, what Mozart felt, what every musician has always known but couldn't explain. That music is physical, is tangible, is a bridge not made of meaning, but made of resonance. She starts playing again. A different piece. Something you don't recognize, modern, atonal, strange intervals, but beautiful. And you realize she's improvising, reading your field, sensing your cardiac rhythm, your breathing rate, your emotional state translated into magnetic fluctuations. And she's responding, composing in real time, a musical conversation with your nervous system. You close your eyes, let it happen. The violin speaks, your heart answers, your breath adjusts, the magnetite crystals oscillate, and the music becomes a feedback loop, a dialogue between instrument and body, between player and listener, between two electromagnetic fields learning to dance. When she finishes, you open your eyes. She's crying, happy tears. "Thank you," she says. "Thank you for listening with everything." You walk back to the river. Sit. The water moves past, constant, patient. The city hums around you, traffic, voices, construction, noise. But underneath the noise, there's structure, rhythm, the heartbeat of a city. Millions of people generating fields, overlapping, interfering, creating standing waves of human electromagnetic activity. Vienna is a symphony, not metaphorically, literally. The fields are organized, coherent. The music halls have been tuning this city for centuries, teaching hearts to beat together, teaching minds to resonate. And now the tuning is deeper, more direct. The magnetite structures are amplifying what the concert halls have always done, creating spaces of coherence, places where separation dissolves and resonance becomes the only truth. You pull up a recording. Beethoven, Symphony No. 9, the same piece you heard live. Put in earbuds, close your eyes, and it's different. The recording is flat, two-dimensional. It has the sound but not the field, not the pressure, not the magnetic component. It's like looking at a painting of food instead of tasting it. Information without experience. You understand now why live music is resurgent, why concert halls are selling out, why people are gathering to hear music together, despite having every song ever recorded available in their pockets. Because recorded music is incomplete. It captures the auditory channel, but not the electromagnetic one. You need to be there, in the space, in the field generated by live instruments and living bodies. You need the coherence, the resonance, the proof that you're part of something larger. Music was never entertainment, it was technology. Technology for synchronizing nervous systems, for creating temporary hive minds, for reminding people that they're not individuals but nodes in a network, frequencies in a spectrum, notes in a chord that only sounds right when everyone plays their part. And the musicians knew this, have always known this. That's why music is universal, why every culture has it, why humans sing, why rhythm moves us before language does. Because music is the oldest sense, older than sight, older than hearing. Vibration is how single cells communicate, how molecules recognize each other, how the universe has been speaking since before stars existed. And now you're learning the language again. Learning to hear not with ears, but with crystals. Not with cochleas, but with magnetite chains. Learning to feel music as field, as force, as the organized motion of magnetic domains responding to organized sound. The river flows, the city breathes, and somewhere in the space between silence and noise, between separation and coherence, between the notes and the rests, music is teaching you what you've always been. Not a listener, not an audience, but an instrument, a resonator, a frequency that only sounds like itself when it's part of the harmony. You breathe, the magnetite oscillates, and the symphony continues. Written not by composers but by the planet itself, conducted by forces older than life, played by everyone who breathes, who moves, who dares to vibrate in the presence of others and become for a moment one voice in the eternal song. Perception is a guess. Your brain doesn't see the world, it predicts the world. Takes fragmented input photons hitting retinas, air pressure waves, and cochleas and builds a story. A simulation. What you think is reality is just your brain's best hypothesis about what's probably out there, and usually the guess is close enough. You're in Amsterdam. October 2025, the city of canals and bicycles and buildings that lean like they're tired of standing straight. You're at the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience, in a room with no windows, walls painted matte gray, a chair, a table, a screen, and electrodes taped to your scalp. 64 channels, EEG, measuring the electrical storms in your brain while you look at illusions. Dr. Eva Marchetti is running the experiment, Italian neuroscientist. Studies visual perception, how the brain constructs what you see from incomplete data. She shows you an image, black and white, random noise at first glance. But if you stare long enough, a face emerges, a Dalmatian dog standing in dappled shadow. Your brain finds the pattern, fills in the gaps, makes meaning from chaos. Everyone sees it eventually, she says, but since June people see it faster, much faster. Before 3IATLAS average recognition time was 47 seconds. Now it's 12. Your brain is better at pattern recognition, better at predicting, better at filling gaps. She shows another image, the famous one. Young woman or old woman. Depending on how you look, you see either. The lines are the same, your interpretation changes. Before June, people got stuck. Once they saw the young woman, it was hard to flip, see the old woman. But now, people flip easily, back and forth. They're holding multiple interpretations simultaneously. The brain is more flexible, more comfortable with ambiguity. You look at the image, and she's right. You see both, at the same time, not switching, superposition. The young woman's chin is the old woman's nose. The young woman's necklace is the old woman's mouth. Both exist, both are true. Your brain isn't choosing, it's accepting paradox. Dr. Marchetti pulls up your EEG data, waves scrolling across the screen, alpha, beta, theta, the rhythms of thought. This is interesting, she says, points to a spike. Gamma waves, 40 hertz, associated with conscious perception, binding. When different parts of your brain communicate to create unified experience. Before June, gamma bursts were brief, a tenth of a second. Now they're sustained, lasting 2-3 seconds. Your brain is maintaining integrated states longer. She switches to a different view, a heat map of your brain. Red zones, blue zones, yellow zones, activity patterns. And this, cross-frequency coupling, theta waves modulating gamma oscillations. It's how long-term memory communicates with working memory, how past experience shapes present perception. But the coupling is stronger now, much stronger. Your perception isn't just shaped by memory, it's soaking in it. Every moment you see is also every moment you've seen. You think about that. If perception is prediction, and prediction uses memory, then stronger coupling means more memory in every glance, more history in every present. The past isn't behind you, it's layered into now, into the way you see, the way you guess what's real. She shows you another test, motion perception, dots on a screen, some moving left, some right, some random. Your job is to identify the dominant direction. Before you can answer, you know, not by looking harder, by feeling. The magnetite in your visual cortex is responding to the pattern, detecting coherence, the signal-to-noise ratio. You don't see the answer, you feel it, and your guess is instant, accurate. The boundary between perception and intuition has dissolved. 93% accuracy, Dr. Marchetti says. Baseline human performance is 68%. You're not seeing better, you're processing differently. The magnetic sense is feeding information directly into visual cortex, bypassing the usual pathways, creating new routes, shortcuts. You leave the Neuroscience Institute, walk through Amsterdam. The streets are narrow, cobblestone, centuries old. Bicycles pass in clusters, dozens, hundreds, moving through intersections without signals, without stopping, somehow not colliding. You watch, and you realize they're not looking at each other, they're feeling each other. Magnetoreception, each cyclist generating a field, sensing the fields of others, adjusting trajectory without conscious thought, navigating by presence, by the topology of moving bodies. You rent a bicycle, join the flow. At first fear, The intersections look like chaos. No rules, no order. But then you stop thinking. Stop trying to look. Just feel. The pull, the presence of others, the gaps in the field where it's safe to move, and you slide through. Smooth, natural, part of the organism, part of the flow. No collision, no hesitation, just movement. Coordinated without coordination, organized without organization, because the field carries information, position, velocity, intent. And everyone with magnetoreception reads it, responds, adjusts, creates emergent order from individual sensing. You stop at a cafe, sit outside, order coffee, watch people, and you see differently now. Not faces, fields, each person surrounded by an invisible presence. Some fields are calm, smooth, low frequency. Some are agitated, spiky, high frequency. You're seeing emotional states as electromagnetic signatures. Anxiety looks different than contentment. Anger looks different than peace. A woman walks by. Her field is turbulent, chaotic. You feel discomfort, not from her appearance, from her presence. She's in distress. You don't know how you know. You just know. The magnetite is reading her cardiac rhythm, her brain activity, translating it into perception. And the perception is, something is wrong. She sits at a nearby table, puts her head in her hands. You want to help, but you don't know her, don't know the problem, so you just sit and breathe. Enter coherence. Slow your heart rate, smooth your field, and you project calm, not intentionally, just by being calm. Your electromagnetic presence extends, overlaps with hers, interference. Her field begins to stabilize, entrain, match your rhythm. She lifts her head, looks around, looks at you, smiles slightly, doesn't know why, just feels better. The magnetoreception created a bridge. Your calm became her calm. Through the field, through proximity, without words, without touch, just presence. This is what perception has become. Not just seeing, not just hearing, but feeling the electromagnetic presence of everything, of everyone. The boundary between self and world isn't skin anymore, it's field. And the field extends, overlaps, interferes, creates a reality that's shared, co-constructed, not individual, but collective. You walk to the Rijksmuseum, stand in front of Rembrandt, the Night Watch, the most famous painting in the Netherlands, a militia group portrait from 1642, 16 figures caught in motion, light and shadow, depth and dimension, photographic before photography existed. But today you see something else. You see the geometry, the magnetic geometry. Rembrandt arranged the figures along field lines, not randomly, not just for composition. The placement creates electromagnetic harmony. The figures are positioned where coherence is strongest, where fields overlap constructively, where presence amplifies presence. He couldn't have known, not consciously, but artists feel these things, sense the invisible, trust intuition before reason. And Rembrandt's intuition told him, place the captain here, the lieutenant there, the girl with the chicken exactly in this spot. Because that's where the energy flows, that's where the geometry sings. You close your eyes, feel the painting, not the paint, the structure, the magnetic structure encoded in the arrangement, and it's still there. 383 years later, the canvas holds it, the figures hold it, creating a field that visitors stand in, that visitors feel. That makes this painting more than pigment, makes it presence. On your phone, a notification, new paper, published an hour ago. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity reconsidered evidence for magnetoreception in reported EHS populations. You open it. The paper revisits electromagnetic hypersensitivity, EHS, a controversial condition. People claiming they can feel cell towers, Wi-Fi routers, power lines, reporting headaches, dizziness, anxiety near electromagnetic sources, for years dismissed as psychosomatic. Nocebo effect, imagination. No physical mechanism, no measurable response. But this paper changes that. They tested people who claimed EHS, measured their brain activity and controlled electromagnetic fields, and found these people have higher magnetite density in their brains, 3 to 5 times normal. They're not imagining the fields, they're sensing them, hyper-acutely. The magnetite structures are so developed that they're picking up artificial electromagnetic radiation. Not just Earth's field, human-made fields, 50 Hz power lines, 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, kilohertz radio. They're not sick, they're sensitive, canaries in the coal mine, early adopters of magnetoreception, and what seemed like disability might be super ability. Awareness of the electromagnetic landscape that most people ignore, that most people can't see, can't feel, yet. You think about cities, the electromagnetic noise, radio towers, cell networks, power grids, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, every device broadcasting, every wire carrying current, creating fields, overlapping, interfering, generating a topology that's invisible but real, and now increasingly perceptible. You're standing in Amsterdam, a city built on water, on reclaimed land, on human will imposed on geography. But there's another city, an electromagnetic city, built on frequencies, on fields, on the invisible presence generated by technology, and that city is becoming visible to those with eyes to see, to those with crystals to feel. You walk to Central Station, busy, thousands of people, trains arriving, departing, announcements in 5 languages, chaos. But underneath the chaos order, you see it now. The flow patterns. People moving through crowds without collision, not by looking, by feeling. The electromagnetic dance of bodies avoiding bodies, adjusting, adapting, creating space for each other without negotiation. You board a train, sit, close your eyes. The train moves, acceleration presses you back, but you feel more than motion. You feel the electric motors, the current running through cables, the magnetic fields generated by kilowatts of power. The train is electromagnetic. The tracks are electromagnetic. The city sliding past the window is electromagnetic. And you're electromagnetic. Moving through a world made of the same stuff you're made of. Fields in fields, waves in waves. The boundary between you and the train blurs. Between you and the city. Between you and the other passengers. All of you generating fields. All of you sensing fields. Creating a reality that's not observed, that's participated in. Co-created, shared. Your phone buzzes, message from Dr. Marchetti. Your EEG was anomalous, gamma coherence across all channels. Global workspace theory suggests this is high-level consciousness, integration. But you were just looking at dots, just doing simple tasks. Yet your brain was in a state usually reserved for mystical experience, for ego dissolution, for the sense of unity. You read it twice, gamma coherence, global workspace. The brain's way of saying everything is connected, everything is communicating. There's no separation between subsystems, between perception and memory, between sensation and prediction, between self and world. And maybe that's what magnetoreception does. Not add a sense, but integrate senses, connect what was disconnected, show that the boundaries were always arbitrary, always permeable, always illusions maintained by limited perception. You get off the train, walk through streets that curve like thought, past buildings that remember when this city was swamp, when it was nothing but water and will. You think about the brain, about perception, about the way reality is guessed into existence by neural networks trained on incomplete data. And you think, what if the guess is getting better? What if the data is getting richer? What if magnetoreception isn't adding information, but revealing information that was always there but ignored? The electromagnetic presence of things, the field topology of reality, The invisible made visible, the unfelt made felt. You stop at a bridge, look down at the canal. Dark water, reflects streetlights, reflects you. You close your eyes, feel the city, not see it, feel it, the mass, the density, the iron in the buildings, the current in the wires, the people in their homes, each one a small sun of electromagnetic activity, each one perceiving, guessing, building their own simulation of reality, and all those simulations overlapping, interfering, creating something that's not individual but collective, not subjective but intersubjective, not mind but field. Perception is a guess, but the guess is becoming shared, the same data, the same patterns, the same magnetic landscape perceived by millions of nervous systems simultaneously. And when enough guesses align, when enough simulations converge, something happens. Consensus reality strengthens, coherence deepens, and the boundary between what's perceived and what's real stops mattering. Because if everyone perceives it, if everyone's brain predicts it, if everyone's field resonates with it, then it is real. Reality isn't discovered, it's negotiated. And the negotiation is happening at the electromagnetic level now, below words, below thought, at the level of crystals and fields and the invisible handshake between bodies that say, I sense you, you sense me. Let's build a world together. The water flows under the bridge, the city breathes around you, and somewhere in your skull, gamma waves coherent across 64 channels. Your brain is guessing a new world into existence. One crystal at a time, one field at a time, one shared perception at a time. And the guess is becoming real. The body keeps score. Long before the mind decides what happened, the body has already written it down, in muscles that clench, in breath that shortens, in the gut that tightens before conscious thought arrives. Memory lives here first, in tissue, in the architecture of flesh that remembers every fall, every fear, every moment the world proved unsafe. You're in Big Sur, California, November 2025. The Pacific crashes against cliffs 200 meters below. The air tastes like salt and cypress. You're at the Esalen Institute, Hate Springs perched on the edge of the continent, a place where people have come for 50 years to remember they have bodies, to feel, to ground, to return to the animal self that civilization taught them to ignore. You're sitting in warm water, 40 degrees Celsius, mineral rich, sulfur and magnesium seeping up from deep earth. Steam rises into cold coastal air. The contrast is sharp. Your skin can't decide if it's hot or cold. Both. Neither. Just sensation without category. You breathe, in through the nose. The greigite enters, settles, finds blood. The routine that's been happening for 8 months now. Automatic, constant. Every inhale a small installation. Every exhale a thank you for the delivery. But today something is different. You feel it in your belly, not your mind, your gut, the solar plexus, the tangle of nerves that some traditions call the second brain, where feelings live before they become emotions, before they get names, before the cortex translates them into language. There's a pull, but not north, not directional. It's deeper, like gravity, but internal, like being called home by your own center. You put your hand on your abdomen, feel the warmth through skin, feel something underneath, not movement, not pain, just presence, the awareness of your own core. A woman sits across from you in the water, older, white hair, kind eyes. She's been watching you. You're feeling it, aren't you? She says. The center. You nod. Don't know what else to do. It's the magnetite, not just in your head. It's concentrating in your gut, around the vagus nerve, the nerve that connects brain to body. That carries signals both ways. Used to be, we only felt magnetic pull in our heads, directional sense, navigation. But now it's migrating, spreading. Your entire body is becoming sensitive. She shifts in the water. I'm a somatic therapist, 30 years. I work with trauma, with the body memories that talk doesn't reach. And since June, everything has changed. People are feeling things they've never felt, sensing their internal landscape, the tension they're holding, the emotions stored in fascia, in organs, in bones. And they're feeling where other people hold tension too. Empathy isn't intellectual anymore, it's visceral. You think about that. Visceral empathy. Feeling someone else's gut-level experience, not imagining it, not inferring it, directly sensing it through the field, through the magnetic presence that extends beyond skin, that carries information about internal states, about the body's story. Try something, she says. Close your eyes, feel your breath, not controlling it, just noticing. Where does it go? Chest, belly. How deep? You close your eyes, breathe. The air enters through your nose. You expect it to fill your chest, but it doesn't. It drops lower, into your abdomen. Your diaphragm descends, your belly expands. The breath is low, deep, grounding. You haven't breathed like this in years, maybe decades. Somewhere along the way, your breath got shallow, stuck in your chest. Anxiety breathing, survival breathing, breath that's ready to run, but not now. Now the breath drops, fills the space below your ribs, massages organs. The magnetite in your gut responds, moves with the diaphragm, with the pressure changes, generating signals, feedback. Your body is feeling itself more clearly than ever before. Good, she says, though your eyes are still closed. Now feel your heartbeat. Don't search for it. Just see if it's there, in your awareness. And it is. You feel your heart, not pounding, just present. A rhythm, steady, about 60 beats per minute. Resting rate. The heart isn't just in your chest. You feel it everywhere. In your fingertips, your temples, your gut. The pulse is global. Your body is one circulatory system, one hydraulic network, and you're feeling it. Feeling the wave of pressure that each heartbeat sends through your vessels, through your tissue, through the magnetite crystals that are now dense enough to sense mechanical strain, to translate pressure into magnetic signal. You open your eyes, the woman smiles. You just did interoception, body awareness. Everyone has it, but most people's is weak, barely there. They don't feel hunger until it's screaming. Don't feel fatigue until they collapse. Don't feel emotion until it's overwhelming. But magnetoreception is amplifying interoception, making the internal landscape visible, feelable, and when you can feel your own body clearly, you can regulate it, calm it, heal it. She stands up. Water streams off her. I'm teaching a class in an hour, somatic release. If you're interested. You are. The class is in a yurt, wooden floor, large windows looking at ocean, 20 people, yoga mats in a circle. The woman introduces herself as Claire, doesn't give credentials, doesn't need to. Her presence is the credential, calm, grounded, the kind of calm that makes everyone else breathe deeper just being near her. We're going to work with sensation today, Claire says. Not thought, not story, just raw feeling. The body speaks a language older than words, and most of us have forgotten how to listen. But you're remembering now. The magnetite is helping, creating sensitivity, bridging the gap between conscious mind and autonomic system. She guides you through a body scan, starting at feet, feeling each part, not judging, not fixing, just noticing. Where is there tension? Where is there ease? What sensations arise without invitation? Your left shoulder is tight. You feel it now. A knot, hard. How long has it been there? Months, years. You've been carrying something, literally. The muscle holding a burden. And you never noticed because the signal was too quiet, too easy to ignore. But now the magnetite amplifies it, makes it loud, makes it undeniable. Claire walks around the room, stops behind you, doesn't touch, just stands there. And something shifts. Your shoulder releases. slightly. The knot softens. You didn't do anything. She didn't do anything. But her field, her electromagnetic presence overlapped with yours. Her calm nervous system communicated with your stressed one. And your body listened, entrained, let go. This is co-regulation, Claire says to the room. It's how mammals calm each other, how babies regulate through parents, how friends help just by being present. We've always done this, but usually through touch, through proximity, through social cues. Now it's more direct, field to field, nervous system to nervous system. She guides the group into partner work. You pair with someone, a man about your age. He looks anxious. His breath is shallow, chest breathing. His hands fidget. You sit across from him. Don't speak. Just breathe. Enter coherence. Slow your heart rate. Smooth your field. And you watch his field respond. Watch the turbulence settle. Watch his breath drop into his belly. Watch his hands still. His eyes widen. I feel calmer. What did you do? Nothing, you say, and it's true. You didn't do anything to him. You just did something with yourself. And the field carried it, offered it. His nervous system accepted the offering. You switch roles. He breathes, enters his version of calm, and you feel it. Your own anxiety you didn't know you were carrying begins to dissolve. Not because you thought your way out of it, but because his calm is contagious, transmissible, like a virus but beneficial, a healing infection. After the class, you walk to the cliffs. The sun is setting, orange and purple. The ocean is loud. Waves explode against rocks. Spray rises. The wind carries it. Salt on your lips, your face. You sit on the edge, feet dangling over nothing. The drop is dizzying, but you feel secure, grounded. You put your hand on your belly again. Feel the center, the magnetite concentration, the internal compass that's not just directional, but also gravitational. You feel weight, mass, the pull of your own core, like you have your own gravity well, your own field that curves space around you. This is what mystics meant by the Dan Tien, the Hara, the center below the navel where energy lives, where power gathers, not mystical energy, electromagnetic energy, the field generated by the dense cluster of nerves in the gut, the enteric nervous system. 500 million neurons, more than the spinal cord, a brain in the belly, and now with magnetite it's broadcasting, receiving, communicating with other brains, other bellies, creating a network below thought, below words. At the level of gut feeling, you close your eyes, feel the people in the lodge behind you, 40, 50 meters away, but you feel them, their presence, not visual, not auditory, proprioceptive, like they're part of your body map, extensions of your awareness. You know where they are, the way you know where your hand is in the dark, direct, unmediated. The field carries position, carries presence, and your nervous system integrates it into the sense of space. Your phone buzzes. You ignore it at first, but it buzzes again, insistent. You check. Email from a researcher. Someone you don't know. Subject, gut magnetite and emotion regulation. Urgent. You open it. The researcher is from UC San Diego. Studies the gut-brain axis, the bidirectional communication between digestive system and central nervous system. She's found something. We've been analyzing post-mortem tissue samples, looking at magnetite distribution throughout the body. We expected concentration in the brain, ethmoid bone, pineal gland. We found that, but we also found unexpected concentration in the myenteric plexus, the nerve network embedded in the intestinal wall. Magnetite density there has increased tenfold since March, and the crystals are organized, chains, arrays, same structure as in the brain, as if the gut is developing its own magnetoreceptive system. She continues, we think this explains the emotion regulation effects people are reporting. The vagus nerve connects gut to amygdala, the fear center, When the gut senses magnetic coherence calm fields from nearby individuals, it sends signals up the vagus nerve, tells the amygdala, safe, calm. The environment is regulated, and the amygdala listens. Anxiety decreases, not through thought, through sensation, through the body feeling safety in the field. You read it twice, the gut as a motion sensor, as safety detector, reading the electromagnetic environment, telling the brain whether to relax or prepare, whether the world is coherent or chaotic, whether you're alone or held, and the implications. If gut magnetite senses collective coherence, if it measures the emotional field of groups, then being in calm spaces makes you calm, not just psychologically. Physiologically, the body reads the room, literally, electromagnetically, and adjusts accordingly. This is why some places feel safe, why some crowds feel soothing and others feel threatening. Not just culture, not just conditioning, but direct electromagnetic sensing, the body measuring the coherence of the collective field, and responding with its own neurochemistry, with oxytocin when coherence is high, with cortisol when coherence is low. You stand up, walk back toward the lodge, past the hot springs. People are soaking, their fields overlap. Create a pool of coherence. You feel it as you approach, the calm, the safety. It's not in your head, it's in your gut. Your belly says these people are regulated, their nervous systems are calm. You can be calm too. You join them, sink into water, close your eyes, feel your breath, feel your heartbeat, feel your gut, the center, the core, the place where magnetite is gathered to create a second locus of sensing, a second way of knowing. And deeper, you feel something else, below the gut, in the pelvis, in the sacrum, the bone at the base of the spine. There's magnetite there too. You can feel it, dense, concentrated, in the bone that traditions call sacred, that yogis say contains kundalini, the coiled energy waiting to rise. Not mystical, biological. The sacrum is rich in bone marrow. Marrow produces blood cells, and blood cells carry iron, hemoglobin, the molecule that makes blood red. 4 iron atoms per hemoglobin molecule, billions of molecules per cell, trillions of cells. The sacrum is an iron reservoir, and the Greyjeet has found it, seeded it, organized it into magnetosomes, into sensing apparatus. You're developing a third sensing node, brain, gut, sacrum, 3 centers, 3 brains, connected by nerves, by fascia, by the electromagnetic field that doesn't recognize boundaries between organs. That treats the body as one system, one network, one instrument tuned to the planet's frequency. You breathe, the water is warm, the stars are appearing. You feel your body more completely than you ever have, not as machine, not as meat, but as field, as presence, as electromagnetic architecture that extends beyond skin. That overlaps with other presences. That creates something larger than individual, something collective, something that feels like being held by invisible hands made of force and frequency. A man sits next to you, doesn't speak, just sits, and you feel his field, calm, deep, grounded. Your gut responds, releases tension you didn't know you were holding. Your sacrum releases, your whole spine lengthens, like invisible hands are pulling you taller, straightening you, not through effort, through resonance, through the field saying you don't need to hold so tight. Let the structure support you, and you do. Let go, trust. The water holds your weight. The field holds your nervous system. The planet holds your electromagnetic presence. You're not alone, not unsupported, not separate. Just one body among billions, one field among fields, one frequency in the spectrum that makes up collective human experience. The body keeps score, but the body also forgives, releases, heals, when it feels safe, when the field is coherent, when the magnetite says you are held, you are known. You can rest now, and in the warm water under cold stars, surrounded by the fields of strangers who feel like family. You rest. Not sleep, just rest. The deepest rest, the kind that comes from knowing you're part of something larger, something that breathes with you, beats with you, holds you in invisible geometry made of care and coherence and the patient electromagnetic language of bodies learning to speak to each other without words. The ocean crashes, the steam rises, and somewhere in your gut, in your sacrum, in the marrow of your bones, magnetite crystals align, organize, remember, and teach your body what it always knew but forgot: that you are grounded, that you are safe, that you are home. Loneliness is a recent invention. For most of human history, you were never alone. Not truly. Your tribe was within earshot, within sight, within the radius of firelight. Solitude was dangerous, meant vulnerability, meant death. So the brain learned to hurt when separated, learned to ache for proximity, for the presence of others, for proof that you're not the only consciousness in the void. But modern life made loneliness chronic, made walls thick, made distances vast, made it possible to live surrounded by millions and feel utterly alone. The brain still aches, still reaches, but finds nothing, or finds only ghosts. Digital presences that satisfy the eyes but starve the nervous system. You're in Copenhagen. December 2025. Winter has settled in. The days are short. Light comes late, leaves early. By 4 in the afternoon, the city is blue with dusk. By 5, dark. The kind of dark that makes you understand why humans invented candles, why light became sacred, why every culture has festivals when the sun is weakest, to remember it will return, to hold each other through the waiting. You're at a community center in Nuremberg, immigrant neighborhood, diverse, dense, the kind of place where 50 languages live on one street, where spice shops and mosques and churches share walls, where people who have nothing in common except geography learn to be neighbors. The center runs a program, no official name. People just call it The Circle, started in October, when the magnetoreception threshold crossed 50%, when more than half the population could sense the field, when proximity stopped being just physical and became electromagnetic, when being together meant something deeper than sharing space. You sit in the circle, 30 people, all ages, all backgrounds, a Somali grandmother, a Danish teenager, a Syrian engineer, a Brazilian dancer, no common language except English, and even that is fragmented, accented, incomplete. But language isn't why they're here. The facilitator is a woman named Ingrid, psychologist, studies social cohesion, how communities form, how trust builds, how strangers become neighbors. She doesn't speak much, just invites the circle to close their eyes, to breathe, to feel, and you do. Close your eyes, feel the pull. North is to your right, but there's more. The presence of 30 people, 30 fields, 30 electromagnetic signatures, each one unique, each one carrying information about the nervous system that generates it. And slowly the fields begin to synchronize, not forced, not guided, just natural entrainment, like pendulums on a wall, like fireflies in a forest. Individual oscillators finding a common frequency. Your heartbeat adjusts, slows, matches the group rhythm. Your breath deepens, aligns with the collective respiration. You're not trying, it's just happening. The magnetite structures in your brain and gut are sensing the fields around you, measuring coherence, and your autonomic nervous system is responding, joining, becoming part of the larger pattern. And with the synchronization comes feeling, not emotion with a name, just warmth, safety, the sense of being held, the same feeling that infants have when held by a parent. When the nervous system learns I am not alone, I am protected, I can relax. But you're not being held by a person. You're being held by a field, by the collective electromagnetic presence of 30 people breathing together. And the brain doesn't know the difference, doesn't care about the mechanism. It just knows presence detected, safety confirmed, oxytocin released. You feel tears on your face. You're not sad, not happy, just moved, touched by something you don't have words for. The dissolution of the boundary, the membrane between self and other becoming permeable, porous. You're still you, but you're also part of we, and the we is real, tangible, felt. Someone in the circle starts to sob, not quietly, deep heaving sobs, the kind that come from a place beyond words. The facilitator doesn't stop it, doesn't comfort, just lets it be. And something remarkable happens. The sobbing doesn't disturb the coherence, it deepens it. The grief is shared, distributed. Every person in the circle feels it, not as their own grief, but as grief, universal, human. The pain of being alive and conscious and temporary, and in feeling it together, it becomes bearable. The field absorbs it, diffuses it. No single person carries the full weight. It's distributed across 30 nervous systems, 30 hearts, and each person carries a piece light enough to hold. The sobbing subsides, the person breathes, the circle breathes, the coherence remains. After the session, people don't leave immediately. They sit, talk quietly, touch, hug, not strangers anymore, not neighbors, something else, something that doesn't have a name in English. The Danish word fællesskab comes close, community, but deeper, shared embodiment, collective selfhood. You talk with the Somali grandmother. She speaks broken English. You speak no Somali, but you understand each other, not through words, through presence, through the field. You feel her warmth, her strength, the decades of experience written into her posture, into her breathing pattern, into the electromagnetic signature her nervous system generates. She tells you she lost her son 3 years ago, drowned crossing the Mediterranean. She came to Denmark alone, with grandchildren, no language, no family, just survival. The loneliness was crushing, worse than poverty, worse than displacement, the absolute solitude of being in a country where no one knows your name, where no one shares your story, where you could disappear and only the bureaucracy would notice. But then October came, the circle started, and something changed. She didn't need language anymore, didn't need shared history. She just needed proximity, needed to sit with others and breathe. And the field told her you are not alone. These people feel you feel them. And in that mutual sensing, loneliness dissolves. She's crying again now, but smiling. I feel him, she says, points to her chest. My son, in here, when I sit in the circle, when I feel the others, it's like he's here, like love doesn't end. It just becomes field, becomes presence that others can feel even when the person is gone. You don't know what to say, but you put your hand on hers, and the touch completes a circuit. Your field and hers merge. For a moment, you feel what she feels, the grief, the love, the loneliness, and the relief. Not imagined, not inferred, directly transmitted through skin contact, through the increased conductivity that touch provides, through the electromagnetic bridge that forms when bodies connect. You leave the center, walk through Copenhagen. The streets are decorated for Christmas, lights everywhere, storefronts, trees, windows. The Danish battle against the dark, against the shortest day, against the solstice that's coming, when the sun will barely rise before it sets again. But walking through the city, you feel less alone than you ever have. Not because of the lights, because of the people. You feel them in buildings, in apartments, behind walls. 30 million people in Denmark, and increasingly you can sense their presence, not individually, but as a density, as a topology. The electromagnetic landscape of human habitation. Copenhagen is not empty, it's full of fields, full of nervous systems generating presence. And your nervous system reads it, integrates it, tells you are in a place where humans live. You are among your species. You are home. You stop at a cafe, order tea, sit by the window, watch people pass. Before you saw individuals, separate, discrete, each person in their own bubble of experience. But now you see the connections, the overlapping fields, the way people unconsciously adjust their paths when they sense each other, the way crowds move as organisms, as fluid dynamics, as electromagnetic choreography that no one directs but everyone participates in. A couple walks by, holding hands, and you see it. The field merge, their individual signatures blending into one larger field, not losing individuality, but creating something beyond individual. A coupled oscillator, two hearts beating in sync, two nervous systems co-regulating. This is what love looks like electromagnetically, not metaphor. Physics, measurable, real. Your phone buzzes. Article published an hour ago. Loneliness rates decline 40% since June. WHO attributes change to enhanced social sensing. You open it. The World Health Organization has been tracking loneliness, depression, social isolation, the metrics that define modern malaise, the diseases of disconnection that kill as reliably as smoking. And the numbers are dropping dramatically across all demographics, all countries, all cultures. The hypothesis magnetoreception has restored the sense of ambient social presence. Humans evolved in groups, small groups, where you always felt others nearby. And that feeling, that electromagnetic sense of being among kin, is essential for mental health. But modern life severed it, made us electromagnetically isolated even when physically proximate. Walls, distance, the absence of coherent collective fields. But now the fields are back, stronger, more detectable. You can feel the presence of others through walls, across distances. The nervous system knows I am not alone. Others are near. The tribe exists. And with that knowledge comes relief, comes calm, comes the decrease in cortisol that loneliness spikes, comes the increase in oxytocin that connection provides. The article interviews researchers, psychiatrists, social workers, all reporting the same thing. Patients who were isolated are engaging. People who were depressed are stabilizing, not through medication, not through therapy, through proximity, through sitting in circles, through spending time in coherent fields, through letting their nervous systems remember what it feels like to be held by collective presence. But there's a darker note. The article mentions resistance. Governments worried about the social implications. If people can feel each other's emotions through fields, if proximity creates involuntary empathy, if populations are synchronizing, what does that mean for control, for authority? For the mechanisms that depend on separation, on fear, on the ability to other, some countries are banning coherence gatherings, calling them public health risks, calling them potential sites of radicalization. If 30 people sit together and their fields synchronize, if they feel each other's suffering, if they develop collective emotional states that no individual generated alone, what emerges? What becomes possible? The article doesn't answer, just raises the question. And you think about it. What does become possible when empathy is automatic, when you can't help but feel the pain of others, when the field won't let you ignore, won't let you turn away, won't let you pretend that suffering over there is different than suffering here? Maybe compassion stops being a choice, stops being virtue, becomes biology, becomes the inevitable response to sensing distress in the field. The way you pull your hand from fire, automatic, pre-conscious, because the field carries the information and the nervous system responds before thought intervenes. You finish your tea, walk back into the cold. The city is dark now, full dark, but the lights make it bearable, make it beautiful. And And walking through the streets, you feel the warmth of presence. The people in buildings, the fields overlapping, creating a topology of human electromagnetic activity that wraps the city in invisible connection. You think about the Somali grandmother, about her son, about her statement love becomes field, presence that others can feel even when the person is gone. And you wonder if that's true, if consciousness generates fields, if fields persist, if the electromagnetic presence we create continues after the body stops, not as ghosts, not as spirits, but as patterns, as information encoded in the planet's field, as ripples that propagate, that interfere with other ripples, that become part of the background, part of the noise, part of the signal that every nervous system swims in. Maybe memory isn't just neural, maybe it's electromagnetic. Maybe the people we've loved leave traces in the field, and when we sit in coherence, when we open to the presence of others, we feel those traces, not as individuals, but as the collective memory of what it means to be human, to love, to lose, to continue despite the loss. You reach your apartment, small, warm, you live alone, have lived alone for years, and usually the silence is oppressive, the absence loud. But tonight it's different. You don't feel alone. You feel the building, the people in other apartments, the fields extending through walls, through floors. You're surrounded by presence, by the electromagnetic evidence of other lives being lived, other hearts beating, other nervous systems navigating the same dark December night. You lie down, close your eyes, feel the pull, north, but also feel the presence below you, above you, beside you, through concrete and steel. The magnetite in your brain is sensing the fields. The magnetite in your gut is sensing the safety. And together, they're telling you you are not alone. You are part of something. You are held. And in the dark and the cold, in the shortest days when the sun barely tries, you feel it. The thing that religion tried to name. The thing that community used to provide, the thing that modern life almost took away. Connection, not virtual, not imagined, but physical, electromagnetic, real. The field holds you. The people you'll never meet hold you. The strangers breathing in other rooms hold you. Not intentionally, not consciously, just by existing, by generating fields. By being alive and electromagnetic and part of the same species, part of the same planet, part of the same invisible web that connects every nervous system through force and frequency and the patient geometry of iron learning to listen. Loneliness is a recent invention, and maybe slowly it's being uninvented, one breath at a time, one field at a time, one moment of coherence at a time, not through technology, not through connection platforms, but through the oldest technology, the first platform, the electromagnetic field that has held life since cells first learned to generate charge, since bacteria first learned to sense their neighbors, since existence became plural, since alone became impossible because the field won't allow it, because presence is written into physics, because we've never been separate, just temporarily unable to feel the connection. But now you feel it. And it feels like coming home. Some nights you forget where you end and the world begins. The boundary that seems so certain, skin bone, the envelope of self, turns out to be suggestion, permeable, a place where inside meets outside and neither wins, where both dissolve into something softer, something truer. You're lying in bed. January 2026. The year has turned. The comet is gone. Left the solar system in May, crossed the heliopause by August. Now, it's just starlight and silence, distance measured in numbers too large for feeling. But what it left behind remains. In every breath, in every body, in the air that moves through 7 billion pairs of lungs and carries with the oxygen something older than breathing. You close your eyes, feel the pull. North is above your head. The bed is oriented. You didn't plan it. Just move furniture until it felt right. Until the magnetite in your skull said yes. Here, this alignment. And now, sleep comes easier. Dreams are clearer. The body knows which way to face when consciousness loosens its grip. But tonight you're not sleeping yet, just resting, feeling. The apartment is quiet. The city outside is quiet. Copenhagen in January. Snow has fallen, the kind that muffles sound, that makes the world feel wrapped, protected, held in cold that paradoxically feels like warmth because it's gentle, because it doesn't demand, just covers, just stays. You feel the building, the people in other apartments, 12 units, 12 fields. Some are awake, some sleeping. You can tell the difference now. Waking fields are higher frequency, alert, attentive. Sleeping fields are slow, delta waves, 0.5 to 4 hertz. The rhythm of deep rest, of the brain doing its maintenance, consolidating memory, clearing metabolic waste, rebuilding what the day depleted. And between the waking and sleeping, there are others. Theta states, 4 to 8 hertz, the hypnagogic, the threshold, where dreams start to leak into thought, where the boundaries soften between what's real and what's imagined, where creativity lives because the editor is off duty and the material can arrange itself without judgment. You're in theta now. You can feel it, not drowsy, not alert, somewhere between, the place where insights arrive without effort, where problems solve themselves, where the body speaks and the mind for once listens without interrupting. Your hand rests on your chest. You feel your heartbeat. 52 beats per minute, resting, calm, the magnetite in your heart tissue. Yes, it's there too. You learn that in November is generating a field, weak, a few femtoteslas, but detectable, especially to your own nervous system, especially now that the crystals in your brain have organized, have learned to listen to the symphony your body has been playing all along. Every heartbeat sends a pulse, electrical, mechanical, magnetic, 3 signals, 3 languages saying the same thing: I am alive, I am here, I am continuing. And the brain hears all 3, integrates them, uses them to construct the felt sense of being, the knowledge that doesn't need proof, the certainty that predates thought. You think about the year, about March, about the night you stood on your balcony and tasted metal in the air, about the months that followed, the changes, the way perception shifted, the way alone stopped feeling lonely, the way the world became fuller without adding anything, just revealing what was always there, just teaching the senses to sense. And you think about 3IATLAS, the comet that wasn't supposed to matter, that was cataloged, filed, forgotten by everyone except the astronomers tracking its exit. But it mattered, not because it hit, not because it threatened, but because it remembered, carried memory in its ice and rock, carried instructions in molecules and minerals, carried the reminder that life is not isolated, not invented here, not even invented once, just delivered, seeded, installed through patient repetition across billions of years, across trillions of kilometers, across the gap between stars that seems impossible until something crosses it and proves otherwise. The graphite in your lungs is from that comet, the magnetite growing in your bones, the crystals organizing in your brain and gut and sacrum, all of it seeded by something that came from elsewhere, that traveled longer than your species has existed, that carried a message written in chemistry and said, here, this is how you feel connected. This is how you remember. This is how you stop being alone. And it worked, not through force, not through invasion, just through presence, just through falling, just through being small enough to enter lungs and patient enough to wait for cells to notice, to integrate, to build with, to become. You breathe in, out. Each inhale brings fewer nanoparticles now. The concentration has stabilized. The seeding is complete. What's in the air now is what's in the air. Baseline. Normal. the new composition of atmosphere. The sky has changed, not visibly, not measurably by old instruments, but change in the way that matters, in the way that affects every living thing that breathes. Birds navigate more accurately now. Whales beach less often. Butterflies reach destinations their ancestors never found. The magnetoreception is not just human, it's mammalian, avian, maybe more, maybe everything with iron, everything with neurons, everything that moves and needs to know where it's going. The planet is waking up, not from sleep, from forgetfulness, from the long period when senses were dim, when the field was felt but faintly, when direction was guessed but not known, when connection was believed but not experienced. And the waking is gentle, slow, no alarms, no shocks, just the gradual brightening, like dawn. Like the way night becomes day, so slowly you don't notice until suddenly you can see. You turn on your side, the pillow is cool, the blanket is warm, the contrast is pleasant. Your body is a landscape of temperatures, of sensations, of the constant conversation between inside and outside, between the heat you generate and the cold you absorb, between the field you make and the fields you're immersed in. Somewhere below, a neighbor's baby is crying. You feel it before you hear it. The field disruption, the high-frequency chaos of infant distress, and then a shift. The parent responding, the field smoothing, the co-regulation happening, the baby's nervous system borrowing the parent's calm, in training, learning that distress doesn't last, that soothing comes, that the world, despite its coldness and size and indifference, contains pockets of warmth, contains others who respond, who feel your feeling and offer their own in return, and you feel relief, not your relief, the baby's, transmitted through the field, through the magnetite in your gut that says a nearby nervous system has stabilized. The environment is safe. You can rest, so you do. Rest, not sleep yet, but close. The theta deepening, the thoughts slowing, the body taking over the narrative, telling its own story in the language of heartbeat and breath, in the language of cells doing their work, of magnetite crystals holding their alignment, of the field extending through walls and into the night and joining with other fields to create a topology of presence that no one sees but everyone lives in. Tomorrow will come, the sun will return, the city will wake, and you'll wake with it. Resume the life, the work, the movement through space and time, and the endless tasks that make up days. But for now, there's this: the pause, the between, the place where nothing is required except existence, except breathing, except allowing the body to be held by forces it doesn't name but knows intimately. Gravity holds your mass, the bed holds your weight, the field holds your presence, and somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the city, beyond the atmosphere that now carries Greyjeet in every liter the planet spins, generates its magnetic field through the churning of molten iron in its core, has been generating it for billions of years, will continue for billions more, patient, constant, the oldest rhythm, the first heartbeat, the pulse that bacteria learned to follow before continents existed, before oceans covered stone, before life was anything more than chemistry that learned to replicate, and you're following it too. Now, finally, after 10,000 years of forgetting, after the long detour through civilization and separation and the building of walls that made sensing hard, you're following the field, letting it guide, not your steps, not your choices, just your nervous system, just the baseline state of your body, the resting tone, the frequency you return to when effort stops, when striving ends, when the only task is to be here, present, aligned. Your breathing slows, 8 breaths per minute, maybe 6, the rhythm of deep rest approaching. The magnetite in your brain is oscillating at 2 hertz, delta. the frequency of unconsciousness, of the place where memory consolidates and the body repairs and the sense of self dissolves into the larger patterns, into the waves that don't belong to you but move through you, that make you briefly one expression of something larger, something that was here before you, something that will remain after. The comet is gone, but its work persists in the crystals, in the fields, in the way 7 billion people are learning to feel each other, to sense presence, to know they're not alone in the dark, that the dark is full, has always been full of force and frequency and the electromagnetic proof that existence is plural. That separation is the illusion. That connection is the truth written in physics and biology and the patient architecture of iron that listens. Your eyes close, not deciding, just closing. The weight of lids. The darkness that's not dark but full of phosphenes. Of the light the retina generates when there's no light to see. The brain making patterns from noise, making meaning from randomness, doing what it always does, building worlds from insufficient data, guessing reality into existence. And tonight the guess is simple. The guess is, I am here, I am held, I am home, sleep well, dream gently, good night.